Consequence Podcast Network.
My friendship to all of you precludes my involvement with any one of you. But if you wanna make love, then I do too, and I'll be right there behind you. All in the name of oh, all in the name of oh, all in the name of oh.
Monsters, stay out of this room. You have no business here. No monsters under Tad's bed. You can't fit under there. No monsters hiding in Tad's closet. It's too small in there. No monsters outside of Tad's window. You can't hold on out there. No vampires, no werewolves, no things that bite. You have no business here. Nothing will touch Tad or hurt Tad all this night. You have no business here. Hello, everybody, and welcome. Thank you very much. Welcome to the Losers Club podcast. I really botched that. We're going to keep it going, though. Welcome to the Losers Club, a Stephen King podcast presented by Consequence of Sound. For this episode, if you haven't guessed already, we are not talking about Gerald's Game. We are not talking about Nightmares and Dreamscapes. We are talking about a little book about a good doggy yawn baddie, thanks to bats. His name is Cujo, and that is also the title of the book, 1983's Cujo by Stephen King. I am a senior writer at Consequence of Sound and one of your co-hosts. My name is Justin Gerber, and in front of me is my little brother, little Tad himself.
Mackenzie Tad Gerber here, constant contributor to Consequence of Sound and avid dog lover.
Oh. And to your left.
This would be Editor-in-Chief Michael Rothman. I guess you could call me Gary Perver, for whatever his name is.
You do love going to Red Sox games and getting drunk and working out the pension.
Honeysuckle.
I love
honeysuckle.
Yeah. and I love my screwdrivers in the morning, and in the evening, and at supper time.
Ooh. And in front of you and to my right,
Mel Castle, also an animal lover, work at an animal hospital, deal with St. Bernards on a semi-regular basis. So I'm coming at this from a very scientific, very experienced perspective.
All right.
Mel is being modest. She specifically works with rabid dogs. So we're looking forward to hearing more insight on that front.
Do you have to sever the dog's head?
Oh my God!
You know, okay, that is still what happens. I don't have to do the severing, but we did have someone from Cook County Animal Control show up very recently, say I have a specimen to collect. Can someone go get it? And we brought out a big old box.
Were you?
And there was a head in there.
Oh
I didn't
my
see
God.
the head, but that's what was in the box.
Whoa.
So that is a real thing, then.
Oh yeah. Well, as somebody that works at Animal Hospital, Mel, could you see yourself doing that? Is this something you would have to do necessarily, or is it up to somebody else?
Cut off the head?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't think I would have to do it. I could do it. I've skinned a dead badger before. I could probably cut off a dog's head.
Yeah, I'd say you could probably do
my
that
God.
after doing something like that.
Yeah, you give me enough drinks, I could probably cut off a dog's head.
Enough drinks or enough money.
Well, before we start diving into the bones of this book, let's go around the room and talk about the first time we either heard about Cujo or even read Cujo. I will once again go off to little Tad himself, my little brother, Mackenzie Gerber.
My first experience with Cujo, again, was not the book. I had not read any of these books. Probably saw bits and pieces of it, like on USA or something, growing up. I didn't watch the film until last year, and this was my first experience with the book, and I read the Signet edition, and it was very, very interesting. A very interesting read, because this is when King... Is this when King's coked out, or
This is
the beginning of
a mixture of... this is maybe his alcohol period.
He says he can't remember writing this book.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll get into that too. It's pretty fun.
Yeah.
exciting read, and I'm excited to share my thoughts.
And that copy you've got is probably my favorite paperback series that King had back in the 90s. That little minimalist artwork with just a little pause in the claws. I like it. Our versions that Mike and Mel and I have are not too good. But Mike, what about you, buddy? What do you think?
Cujo is actually one of the earliest Stephen King films I remember watching. I was a huge fan of dogs growing up. Still am. Not Pipples or Dobermans no, those two are the only ones I get terrified around. But either way, love dogs. And I loved Cujo as a kid because I thought it was very relatable. Everyone has a dog, or for the most part, knows a dog. And they're usually friendly and they're really nice. And the idea that could be corrupted terrified me. So I have great memories of this being one of my favorite sleepover films.
That's a good way of looking at that too. That's cool. Mel, initial or just memories of Cujo?
Hadn't read it until this month, and I still haven't seen the film, but I will get right on that. Sorry, guys. The book
Stop. Shut it down. Shut it down.
I guess we have to hold off. The book I avoided, I knew about it. It's one of his more famous ones. But I thought, having read Pet Sematary, this is going to be a step back in terms of intensity. And I also had the wrong idea about the book, this whole time. I thought my picture was like people battening down the hatches in Castle Rock. Like, everyone shut down the shops because Cujo's coming. Like, he's going to terrorize the whole town for an extended period of time. And we'll get into it, but that's not how the book is structured.
That's like the movie that would have been made today.
That's
exactly.
the inevitable remake after its success.
Yeah. It's actually Cujo 2, Job's War. Job's War.
beyond the camera's garage.
Yeah.
I guess I should talk about me for a second.
You go.
I definitely saw the film first, and I recognized, Dee Wallace is in it, and I recognized her as the mom from E.T. Mm-hmm. And as a kid, it definitely really affected me. Liked it a lot as a kid. Hadn't really watched it in a lot of years until recently. And I've read the book a couple times, and I always enjoyed the book, but this time I definitely approached it at a different angle, and I'm sure. I'm quite positive I'll be talking about that in this episode. Well, very decided. You know what? I'm not even going to talk about that. Let's just talk about the bare bones of it all. But yeah, those were my earliest memories of Cujo, and they were really enthralling, I'm sure.
You know what's weird, though, and I don't want to jump ahead too much with my deeper thoughts about the book itself, but for the longest time, and no, that's not a Billy Joel reference I'm doing here.
Start harmonizing.
No, I had this... For some reason, I've always tied this to Spielberg. And I know that's because Dee Wallace is also an E.T., but I also think just the premise itself is very Spielbergian. It basically reminds me so much of Jaws. It feels like it's Jaws with a dog. But for some reason, growing up, I always thought Spielberg was involved with this somehow. And reading the book has actually gave me some answers as to why I think that, because I just think there's a lot of motifs in this that are just blatant Spielberg. And for me, and maybe it is a good segue to go into. I just think that this might be King's first book where he was self-aware about himself, about his own power across storytelling in both the novel medium and also the film medium. For me, reading this book kind of confirmed those feelings because it almost reads like a screenplay for me.
Oh, I can see that definitely.
And I feel like he's almost writing certain sections like this is a horror movie. And so that was interesting just going into the first read for this, but
Yeah, I think we can definitely, there's actually a moment in the book where she looks at the Cujo and says, like a scene out of a horror movie.
Yeah.
And Cujo jumped up and
there is.
Transcribing the jump scares right there.
Yeah.
Something I found interesting, we can go right into our first segment here then, I guess, which is the kind of the hook and the structure and the format of Cujo.
Yes. Don't you see? Don't you see how clear it all is? Not only can you see the future, I can change it. You can change it, exactly.
And something right off the bat that I noticed was the fact this is the first time there are no chapters. There are no sections in this novel. It just starts off, and it starts off with Once Upon a Time. So why do you think he decided to structure it that way? Any thoughts on that?
I think it has a little to do with, the bottle speaking.
As a matter of fact, Mike, thanks for bringing it up.
I think he was just
I think.
Hey, I'm at my desk and I'm writing this book.
Here's something.
And Tabby, I'm going to keep writing.
As a matter of fact, Mike, why don't you read this section? Well, I'll let you read the other section. I'll read this also. Yeah, but from his unwriting book, he writes, "There's one novel, Cujo, that I barely remember writing at all. I don't say that with pride or shame, only with a vague sense of sorrow and loss. I like that book. I wish I could remember enjoying the good parts as I put them down on the page." So yeah, this is definitely during his high times, to say the very least, which lasted probably, I think, it lasted until about the Tommyknockers. And that's when he said, enough's enough, because he hates the Tommyknockers, which is good because I don't care for that book at all either. So
Such a ride, though.
yeah, that's all right. It's a ride, all right. But that's a good 7-year period. But the thing is, he wrote some incredible books during that 7-year period.
You got to wonder if he went back to those vices now. What books would he come up with?
Oh my God.
Well, I think that he's unfortunately. I mean, obviously, I don't wish that kind of lifestyle on anyone. But I think after coming off the success of all these other books, had he not been, using and drinking, I don't know what he would. I think he might have been too self-aware, or the books might not have been as
Intense
good.
or weird,
and
yeah.
I'm not. It sounds like I'm condoning the use of drugs, but we joke around about this all the time about musicians and things. We're like, I wish Ryan Adams would get back on drugs or something. Because I feel like a lot of his stuff lately isn't that as good, but.
I think Ryan Adams
but this is a different situation because King has obviously gone on and written many great novels since all this, so it really has no bearing on it. But I'm curious because we just said like he is very self aware of like his grasp over the horror genre and his effect, I guess, across the board. And I don't know. I'm interested in seeing. I lost my train of thought.
You're interested in seeing him go back
Mac's
onto
been
his
drinking as
addiction.
well. Mac's been drinking as well. But I think that's the difference between, because he says that, he wrote like It and Tommyknockers during his more Coke-infused days. But this was much more during his he's drinking too much. And so, you don't necessarily forget things when you're coked out. You're just working at hyperspeed and you're, writing 1,200-page books called It and 800-page books called The Tommyknockers. So you don't know when the hell to stop. In certain points, you should have stopped at certain points.
I mean, knowing that is pretty impressive, though, because it is just a really multifaceted, like crazy layered book.
Everything is in that book. Yeah. I wish, but I wonder. Maybe I should just start doing a lot of drugs and drinking a lot, and I'll be able to pop out this stuff.
Well, I was wondering, like, there's like that whole debate about bands that are on drugs and how their albums are better. Like, there's always the Aerosmith thing, like how they've had their periods of just being like totally blown away on drugs and how their
they do, like,
albums
honking
have
on
been
the
better.
Bobo or whatever it's
And then
called,
they get
Bobo.
off, and then they do the honking on the Bobo and like Just Push Play and all those other garbage albums, but. And there's a lot of instances with that with any other rock bands, and not just Aerosmith. But let's keep it at Aerosmith because that's a New England band, and we're talking about a New England author. So,
very
but
true, Mike.
No, I do wonder if that applies to authors, and King I think is the best example of that because look at the stretch that he has when he is on drugs. It's pretty amazing.
Well, I think that it's the old great art comes out of madness sometimes, you know, and it's about trying to find a way to find that great art without resorting to. The bad drugs.
Hey, it's a mad world.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true.
So.
But also the 70s stuff when he wasn't as into it at all. Like, we'll get into this, but this is such a bleak book. Mm-hmm. It's so bleak. It's so tragic. And if you compare that to The Dead Zone, which is directly referenced, or The Stand, which they're very moralizing. They get into good and evil and all the stuff behind that. This one, if you want to talk about going down a well or a hole with drugs, this is just so deep in there, and it's really affecting. It's really powerful from that perspective. But I missed the moralizing of The Stand.
Yeah.
I missed just the end is a gut punch.
I think there's a lot
book.
of things with the deeper themes of that which kind of explains why the book ends in such a way as it does. But it's funny because you read this, it goes back to what Mike was saying about Spielberg for me, where when you read it, you feel yourself, he doesn't have a kid, or he wouldn't have written that ending. Mm-hmm. But he's had like 3 kids at this point. Because like Spielberg always says he regrets in Close Encounters, it's a great movie. But he wasn't a parent yet, and so he can't imagine doing that movie now and having the father leave.
That movie is so obvious that he wasn't a parent yet at that point.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
the father is just
but Cujo to me felt like that. But no, he's like, he's like a 10-year-old at this point.
I love my family, but I think that if I met aliens, that I would absolutely go with them.
Yeah, but you don't have any children.
It's important. That's the universe. That
it means something.
Is bigger than my family. You know what I mean?
I'm talking about leaving your children and wife behind. I'm talking about leaving your parents
Terry
behind.
Garr's going to be a good single mom. Okay, we don't have to worry about her.
She went back to work at Mr. Mom, so Michael Keaton could work at home. Remember that?
I think Michael has something to say about Cujo.
Oh wait,
no.
I want to talk more about
Mr. Mom,
Tootsie, and I want to talk more about Mr. Mom and Young Frankenstein.
Hey, I love Michael Keaton, Mr. Mom. I think he's great.
He's great, but I'm sorry, Michael.
No, but the bleakness of this book, it's interesting because you're right because Pet Sematary is also a really bleak book. That might be his bleakest book, and that's very similar. And it is part of this era. And I never thought about that though, about how his books did become really bleak during this time period.
Yeah.
because I actually don't. I haven't read Christine, so I can't imagine. Like, I don't know what the ending for that is pretty bleak, also, though, right?
I was thinking about this because, yeah, like you said, it's so bleak at the end of this with Tad, and even like your supposed hero Bannerman, who returns from Dead Zone, dies unceremoniously, you know. But for me, when you compare this to something like Pet Sematary, or you compare it to something like even Salem's Lot, the entire book you're set up to believe this is a fantasy world with vampires or with cats and people coming back from the dead. And that's what he's kind of doing in this is you're kind of left uneasy. Is this a fantasy book, or is this just kind of based in a reality? And by the time the book ends for me, and I think he kind of makes it clear at the very, very end of the book, it is reality based. Mm-hmm. So when, like, for instance, the Glick brothers get killed in Salem's Lot, it's just, you're taken out of it a little bit because it's reality. But when a little boy just dies because he gets seizures and dehydrates, it's more realistic. You compare it to that, I think.
It's such a good trick that he plays. And he even shows his hand at the very beginning, like the first page of the book. He says, there was a monster named Frank Dodd. Mm-hmm. He was not really a monster. He was a man with mental and sexual problems. This is going to be much the same. And you don't believe him because, you know, Frank Dodd's in the Dead Zone.
Exactly.
There's magic in that book.
He even mentions Johnny Smith in the first page.
Yeah.
So you're immediately thinking, okay, we're in this universe, and it's going to be an otherworldly thing, and or just the entire theme of monsters in this, you know, and then and the exploration of that. And I do love how bleak this book is, because I feel like it's weird. It's one of the Stephen King books so far that feels to me like a Bachman book almost, because it's not set in the supernatural realm, and it is very realistic. And I buy the ending, and I buy what happens to all the characters, and you know, I don't know. I just thought that it was very real, as opposed to, you know, some of the other books we've been reading.
And it's even bleaker than that, because there is a little bit of the supernatural, but it's not enough. We get premonitions of the monster. We get the closet.
Yeah.
And it's just an omen, and that's it.
And some of that, I feel like so much of that is also just suggestible. I don't want to speak for Randall, but Randall was telling us a story about how, I'll keep this really brief, he went home one night and he was convinced that he saw like a ghost or something in his window, and did not want to go home that night and left. Now, as we are all adults, and even looking back, there probably wasn't anything there, but the suggestion alone was powerful enough to make him feel that way. And so when I'm looking at the whole monster in the closet angle, I don't think there was a monster in the closet necessarily. I think that a little boy saw it, and then bad things start to happen. And you couple that with the fact that this town was so normal in your everyday small town for God knows how long, and then this Frank Dodd thing happens. And I think something like that, when you're living in such a close-knit community, changes everything forever.
No, totally.
And everybody in this book who lives in Castle Rock is still referring to Frank Dodd in this, and they always will, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that runs rampant as the rabies through Cujo's brain throughout this entire book.
Well, one of the things I really love about the supernatural element in this book is that it really allows for all the coincidences and foreshadowing to come into play.
Yeah.
Because that is probably my biggest criticism with this book, is that there is so much foreshadowing to the point where you see this nice little Saint Bernard at the beginning, and they're like, oh, yeah, there's kind of something eerie about this dog. It's like, no, there's nothing eerie about this dog. It's a nice Saint Bernard in the family. Yeah. There should be no foreshadowing whatsoever yet. The bat hasn't come into play. You haven't had this like crazy element to danger that's been introduced. Yeah. So that there's a lot of that, and then there's, you know, all this stuff that like, oh wow, like Vic has a dream about a monster like in a cave with his kids, and you know, or the kid in Donna, and it's just like,
I think that was more like, you know, there's something wrong, and that was like his dream's way.
Well,
of
and it goes back to the woman in the room with like Night. I thought about that a lot, like how that was my criticism in Night Shift, was that, you know, I love that short story, but at the same time, the minute they introduced the word boogeyman under the bed, my thing is, okay, well, we've read this book that literally has like 12 short stories dealing with the supernatural, and then you're going to do a really serious story. And you can't throw those words in there, because there's this presumption that there is the actual boogeyman. Like, you've already made this sort of situation or scenario where I'm going to believe what you're putting out there in terms of any sort of supernatural element. Like, that is you now. Like, and it's not just because you're writing like genre fiction, but it's just that is the stories that you have. Yeah. So when, you know, you have this like monster, you know, you have a book that's named Cujo, that's about a killer dog, that obviously at this point we know that like Stephen King was already kind of creating these sort of genre stories that were based around certain elements, like whether it was like the car, or like, you know, or not the car, but like the psychic visions, or the haunted hotel, or the plague, or vampires. Like, this is going to be evil dogs. So like when they start talking about the monsters in the closet, I get it on a metaphorical level, but I'm also in my head saying, oh, there probably is a monster in the closet because this is Stephen King. And, you know, that's just how it is. Like, that's always been some of my problems with at least just going and revisiting these books, is that he tries to do these serious things, but he can't help himself from indulging in that supernatural stuff. You know?
My thing though with Mike, I actually like that in this though, is I think the entire book is based on him playing with your expectations.
Yeah.
And that even there's moments where Donna is literally like one page saying, "Oh my God, this dog is literally trying to kill me. There's something literally like supernatural about this dog, and it's trying to kill me. It's trying to get back at me for cheating on my husband. It's trying to get back at me for this and that." But then the next page, she's like, "No, this is just a rabid dog, and this is just an awful confluence of events and series of coincidences."
It's very self-aware about what Stephen King is. At that point.
And I think there is. I don't know if I disagree with you. You were saying that you think the closet wasn't anything going on there supernaturally. I think there totally is.
Yeah, well, I think
Cujo is supernaturally intelligent for a rabid dog. Like when he's like, I have to wait until she gets out of the car because she's got to get close enough, and like, no.
I think the closet thing I think is more about. It's like a way of King's way of inserting like warnings in a way, because he dreams about, at one point, I don't know if you remember this, Tad dreams about the baseball bat, but I don't know if it's necessarily a warning about like, do this and you'll save yourself, or this is just what's going to happen and that's it. That's what I got from the closet thing.
Or you could add Donna, Tad, Vic, and maybe even Joe to the long list of names that might have the shine in the Stephen King universe.
Tad has the shine.
It seems like every character at this point has the shine. Like it's like Danny's, and even a
you're
special
a kid, you're shining.
Exactly. Yeah, that was the thing. Because I like it more as on a metaphorical level, but there's just so many coincidences that happen that it does make me think like it was actually supposed to be like a supernatural thing. I don't know. It's just it's weird.
I didn't get the thing with the dog. I thought the point of view from the dog didn't make it seem supernatural to me though. I thought that was just like that really tied it that it wasn't supernatural. But Mel, you're in the opposite on that. You think it absolutely is because of the dog's perspective and the way the dog acted.
I just think there are certain points where he references it when we're from the dog's point of view, and the dog is like, some instinct told him that she wasn't going to come all the way yet, and he needed to lay low until she actually approached because he knows she's faking him out.
Yeah.
And like
I thought that was from the rabbit part of his brain that drives like dogs crazy though.
But he's right. He's totally spot on.
Yeah, that is interesting too, because even when Bannerman first shows up, he says for some reason he's like, this is the man who's the cause
every time
of all
he
my
sees somebody
pain.
he feels that.
And it's like, oh, that's creepy. If this is actually supposed to be Dodd, kind of possessing this dog or something, or some kind of evil. So yeah.
Interesting points of view. Well, that's good. This is going to be a good episode.
Either way, the hook is Jaws with a dog.
I've got
Jaws. It's actually Jaws 2 with a dog, because you have all the kids that are stranded. I guess it's Jaws with a dog because they're stranded on a boat. And
Jaws with a dog. Yeah. I've got there's a bunch of themes going here. Putting things off, obviously, which leads us into the Nope, Nothing Wrong Here ad campaign. Evasion, avoidance, rejection, fatalism versus fantasy. I mean, there's a lot of stuff. When you think about like Firestarter, which is literally just about protecting your daughter who has got the ability to set things on fire, and there's like no other message there. I do think there's a lot more going on in Cujo than just like the base of Firestarter.
This is the first book I've read for the podcast, like going in order for the podcast, where I felt like, okay, he's going to deal with women in this book. He's going to talk about being a wife and a mother from a place that's actually a little bit more informed. And
the protector and everything too.
Yeah, and their responsibilities towards themselves versus their responsibilities toward their families. Like, I was very pleased. I mean, obviously there are points where he dips again, and we'll get into that. But I was very pleased with the development of the female characters in this book.
Totally. Yeah. I think that also, I think, and granted, again, like, I mean, he was drinking a lot during this, I guess, but I think that it's also why there's like from Firestarter to this, there are a lot of like themes and like he is trying to say a lot of things with this. There's a lot in there in this book, and I feel like, I feel like he kind of holds back in the prior books about like, well, this, I'm not trying to say something with this. This is just a scary story kind of thing. Whereas in this, I feel like he didn't, like his inhibitions were like he was just, really trying to thickly layer this with, themes and subtext.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of ways to take this book, because I've read some things talking about how like the dog's supposed to represent his addiction and the the pitfalls that come with addiction and what it does to family, which I definitely think is a really spot on take. But I also thought it was interesting that like he takes the dog, which I had mentioned before, is like a man's best friend. It's like everyone, it's like the family treasure. It's the everyone loves the dog, but he takes the dog and he basically uses the dog to embellish like each family's worst kept secrets, their feelings, their demons, and what that does when they're all out in the open, and how it changes families for the worst a lot of the times, and maybe even sometimes for the better, but mostly in this case, as we see in the ending, the worst. And I thought that was interesting in the way like I do think it's weird, because when you look at both sides, you have Charity and you have Donna. And they both are trying. They're not happy with their situation in life, and especially Charity, who's trying to get out. And I actually started getting angry at Brett. Also, I was just like, "Fuck you! Your situation sucks. Your mom is like being screwed over. Like, wake up!" Like,
he's like a
my
daddy's
dad's
boy,
so
though.
cool.
Yeah,
like
it's the ultimate. Like, I look up to my dad's god. That type of thing.
like
You can fix a drive shaft.
oh my gosh, it was driving me nuts.
Get
I
off
was just
that
like,
fucking garage.
I was just like, enough of the dog. Like, he's fine.
He wasn't fine.
He wasn't fine. He wasn't fine. But I was just like, look,
that's the whole other thing with
your
avoidance.
mom is finally out of his household in hellhole. Anyway, but then there's also Donna, who she had this other life, and then they go to Castle Rock, and it's not really her life, and it becomes like she doesn't really want to be in this sort of like lifestyle, the small town lifestyle per se, and I feel like it's interesting that he uses these two women to talk about how they want to change their own life and what the disastrous effects that come from that. And I don't know. I don't know what he's trying to comment on that per se.
Go ahead, Mel.
Definitely don't want to look at this book as like Cujo is a punishment for Donna's infidelity.
Yeah.
No, I don't
that's
think
a very
it is.
uncharitable reading. That I definitely don't want to do that. But I do like. For me, it's about communication. Like the communication breakdown is how the marriages don't really work out, and it's how the Rube Goldbergian machine of coincidences leads everybody to be unaware that Cujo is on the rampage. Like just as simple as like erasing the note, like when Steve erases the note that Donna left about where she's going, like nobody can communicate clearly and get anything across or talk about how they're feeling until it's way too late.
Can we talk about that? Because that's the huge part of this for me. Because, oh my God, his name escapes me right now. Well, we'll give him some credit later on. The author of that, the book about the making of the movie, it's called Nope, Nothing Wrong Here, The Making of Cujo. And I didn't understand what that was a reference to because I hadn't read the book in so long. But as I read this book, I realized, oh my God, avoidance is all over this. And if just one person had done something differently, none of this would have happened.
Well, it goes into ignorance is bliss. Like even with like the sheriff, like they have so many instances of this, and even towards the very end, after everything is settled, and Holly's watching her sister get the news about Joe, and she recalls all the incidences where they just kind of couch all these bad things that have ever happened to them. I mean, with their father, with their friends around the town, and how they just, it's like, these are good times, but we're also not remembering the fact that her father like was abusive. And now they, she also, Charity finds herself in another abusive relationship, and she's trying to get out. And like, and so I saw that her admission of like what had happened with Joe is a way of breaking that, in a way of like being like, no, I'm going to put the bad stuff on this table. I'm not hiding this away. And I thought that was kind of interesting that at the end, both respective parties, all their skeletons, all their demons are on the table, and they have to sort through them. Yeah. And there is communication that's going to be on there. Like I didn't really see it. Like I didn't see it as a condemnation of what those two are doing. I thought it was because I mean that would be ridiculous. It's this like cautionary tale. It's like,
If it
you
ended
shouldn't
like,
cheat
and
on
you
your
should-
husband.
It's like Arrested Development, like,
No.
and that's why you don't cheat on your husband.
No, because
No.
I mean, I come from a family where my dad was cheating and my mom was cheating. Like, so growing up, you understand there's a reason for that. It's not just because this, like, you know, you're trying to get at somebody. There's a reason for why that happens. And I think there's a lot of interesting meditations here about what those reasons are. And I think it does come back to communication for sure, is the fact that, like, nobody, this sort of ignorance thing. It's like, as long as the goodness, this good thing is happening, I can kind of just keep putting away these demons until it just boils up, and then you have a rabid dog that are killing.
From a
killing people
practical
in their-
perspective,
yeah,
was anyone else just constantly thinking like, God, cell phones were not a thing?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, we had this conversation yesterday, or we watched some horror movies the other night, and we just thought, God, you just can't make a horror film today because of cell phones.
But you know what I heard, though?
it's
In Castle
tough.
Rock, for cell phones, it's a total dead zone.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Mike Roffman just had a
Yikes.
stroke. His jaw just dropped. Like, that was
That was great.
such a morning
That was pretty
zoo
great.
DJ bullshit
But
line to
that's
say.
not to go on a tangent too much on the cell phone thing, but
Yeah.
like, you know, like it just made a shitload of money at the box
Yeah.
office. Not to time stamp this episode because I have no idea. When
Well, we
we're
should tell
running
people
this.
we're recording this way before we're going to be broadcasting this episode out there. We're posting it.
We got
But,
a big King month
definitely.
of stuff to do. But I don't think any of the King adaptations should be set in modern times.
No. For that instance, most horror movies shouldn't be set in. Well, you know what? What if they did Cell set in 1952?
Yeah.
That's the one movie you have to set
A
now.
rotary phone.
Yeah. Don't touch that landline.
Nobody pick up your phone at your home. Go outside.
You have a bunch of people in like the Boston Common area just holding these landlines. It's like,
But I do want to talk more about this avoidance and putting things off and everything that we'll be talking about, because I've got a lot of instances here. Feel free to chime in. And they don't come across as a final destination thing either. They just come across as decisions that everybody would make at some point in their life, and you just think it's no big deal. It's the whole nope, nothing wrong here advertising campaign that Vic and Roger are going on. Feel free to interject, because I've got a lot here, please. An early instance is about Brett, and he tells Charity that there's something wrong with Cujo. But she is so determined to get out of there, and she feels like if they tell Joe anything, he's going to convince Brett he needs to stay. And so that's one example of Charity should have said something. You know, if she had said something, if she had told Joe, or if she had done something herself, animal control would have come out, said, dog's got rabies. Sorry, we got to get Mel over here to chop off its head. And
Gladly.
Gladly.
It's the blinders, right? Like, this brought up to me the whole, like, he's so sure it's Kemp. No one ever considers any possibility outside their selfish considerations.
It's got to be Kemp. There's no question about it.
I had one where Ronnie Dubé and Joe Magruder don't tell Joe that something's wrong with Cujo either.
Yeah, they don't hear about it in the newspaper.
They're like,
or whatever,
yeah, and then it says that Great Punch says neither of them thought about Cujo again until they read about him in the paper.
Yeah. I've got if Vic had called ahead to Joe regarding the car needing repair, Joe would have called him to cancel before going on his trip. Because remember, Joe, before he goes on his planned trip to Boston, he calls everybody he's got an appointment with to tell them that he's going to be leaving town.
I got a really deep one. If the coloring dye would have said that their dye was actually kind of hazardous to kids, then none of this would have happened, and Vic would have stayed home.
If they knew it was that they were going to be puking and shitting up red dye, they wouldn't have put that in the box. They wouldn't have distributed it out.
There's a slight chance.
There's a slight chance your kids are going to vomit up gross red dye.
But it is interesting that they have this. At the end, I was starting to joke around and saying, like, what is maybe this was like King's way of being like, fuck you, you marketing scumbags. It's like this is the false lies that you sell to these kids, and this is what happens. This idea that these falsities that we tell ourselves is like mirroring the advertising industry. Also, like I don't know if
you remember this around like 81. This is after Firestarter. King had made a deal with Kellogg's, and they were going to do Cujo's Cookie Crunch. And this is going to be a $5 million deal. Now, $5 million in 1981 is a lot of money. So at the last second, they pulled the deal. And he said, I'm going to get my revenge on these fucking cereal companies.
I was just about to say, that's the reason why we've never seen a Stephen King, cereal.
That's right, because they thought they were poking fun at them. Some more of the nope, nothing wrong here. I've got a part here with after Vic dreams of his family in peril, he lays back down in bed and has a sudden irrational urge to call home, and he says, "No, I'll just call them in the morning." And then it's written here, and when the wake-up call came on Tuesday, he had forgotten all about the dream of the beast in the clearing. He had only the vaguest recollection of having gotten up in the middle of the night at all. Vic did not call home that day. So there's just a bunch of stuff like if you just called and then once again you're really worried because at 3 o'clock in the morning, there's no excuse. Why would your wife and child be out 3 o'clock in the morning?
Even Steve Kemp, he keeps coming and going, and not really, he tries to confront it, and then no one's there, and then he does a bunch of shit, and then leaves, and then it's just,
Or Donna in the Pinto, she's like, maybe it'll be fine this time. The car is like, it clearly won't run. You're going to put your child in it for that like miles long ride up into the middle of nowhere.
Because she even says something like, well, what, honey, don't come with me, honey, because if something goes wrong, it's a long walk to get back to where we're going, And it's like, just don't fucking go, don't go. I've got, after Charity witnesses Brett sleepwalking, the whole Cujo's not hungry anymore, that whole thing. And once again, she went back to her room, lay there, and the sun came back up. Brett seemed fine in the morning, so why mention it? He did not mention Cujo. He apparently forgot about calling home, at least for the time being. And Charity decides to just let the matter rest there. Like, who cares? Okay, well, it's fine. There's nothing wrong with my son. It's just he had just had a nightmare.
We mentioned the Bannerman thing, right? About how he refused.
Oh, well, yeah, that's
I mean, that's a little later on, but
that's huge.
That's a huge one. The fact that he refuses to, he didn't call it in, and he had that. Well, you kind of summarized it perfectly yesterday. It
was the whole thing where, once again, this is the first Bannerman. We'll talk about Bannerman a little bit more, but Bannerman was the first instance of a returning character to a Stephen King book, and he's kind of like the do-good cop who kind of goes out of his way, maybe a little bit off the book, to call Johnny Smith in, the psychic investigator, to figure out what's going on.
Johnny's not there anymore.
And so once again, though, he goes off script, and instead of calling in immediately that the Pinto's there, he figures he'll do it later on, and like his dying words or something like
reasons that
he reasons like, well, if I had done that, then Frank Dodd would maybe still be out there killing people.
Yeah,
but that's not the way. Because
he went off script for to try to find Frank Dodd, but
unconventional methods. But
did you guys get fooled by the fake out where he's like, and he went back to his car and he called it in and everybody rescued him
for a split second? It was so quick, so I thought, I don't remember this happening in the book, and then it's like, no. That's like the fake out happy ending right there. Well,
it's the Currents at Owl Creek Bridge thing that I always did. You in your head. I love that. I love that because I look. I've never almost died, but I imagine like you do see like the kind of solutions. There's a lot of that in this book. Like I love when Donna's trapped in the car and she starts thinking of items that are in the house, and she's like, "Oh God, if I could just be next to those items." It's like this weird,
just sitting there doing nothing. I can see it.
That is such a real human thought. I mean, I used to think about that in high school all the time when I'd be sitting in boring classes and just be like, "Oh, I wonder what my pillows are doing on my bed right now." It's probably laying there. I wish I could do that. Like, just imagining things that are just sitting on your house and just be like, "Oh God, if I could just get there, like, that'd be great."
I know. I get paranoid in my own life. I just lost my train of thought there, and I'm getting really depressed. No, there's some more. I'll run through these real quick, but it gets to the point where you're like, God damn it, just do something. Vic almost tells Roger about his situation at home, but then room service shows up, and he's like, why am I even going to bring this up? Just decides not to talk about it.
I wonder what that would have done, though.
I feel like maybe Roger would have been like, you know what? Yeah, follow up on this a little bit more. Maybe he would have talked him into it. It's about people not wanting to be told that they're doing something necessarily wrong. That's the whole thing, especially with when Holly's talking to Charity. And says, there's nothing going on. Everything okay at home? And Charity just goes, oh, Brett's just a little worried about Cujo. Not really laying into the fact that, oh, yeah, Cujo looked really, really sick, and I can't get in touch with his fucking father.
When you were reading this and you heard the name Charity, was just a part of you, like, really deep in your head, just thinking, like, hearing the Jim Blossoms and like, hey, Charity.
Oh, yes, the old classic Hey, Charity by Jim Blossoms.
Yeah, I could not stop thinking about that.
Or Charity Road by Jim Blossoms.
That actually,
I was going to say, isn't it Hey, Jealousy?
Yeah. No, it is that. Yeah. Good job, man.
Oh, God.
Another explaining of jokes.
That's right. I feel like you have to explain the joke to really nail on the point. Later on, the old we got after the nightmare, Vic said to the Pinto. This is near the end of the book, and he just literally says, "Why can something like this happen? Mm-hmm. How many things have to happen for this to happen?" And that's literally just life. Mm-hmm. We're all sitting here because a billion things have happened over the last billion years, and we're all sitting here. I'm getting very deep here.
I know.
It's like Goa hunting. That's just life, and
This is life.
Well, it reminds me of like that part in Blue Velvet when Jeffrey or Kyle MacLachlan's talking to Laura Dern, and it's like, why do bad people like Frank exist? And it's like this person that's first, experiencing this like pain and turmoil in the world.
It's another Frank.
Yeah,
another Frank just interloping this, interceding this nice small town. Yeah.
He does so much work to ensure that these coincidences happen, though. Like it's pretty. It's. I think he does the right amount of work. Like it's pretty believable to me, given how effed up these people are and how bad they are at communicating. And then there are a couple out of the way circumstances, like Steve Kemp coming in.
Yeah. Force of nature.
It reminded me of After Hours.
Yes.
It's like he can't get home.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
What did we see recently that reminded us of After Hours? What was it? It was like Good Time almost.
It was
right?
Good
Where these
Time
things
was a
kept
lot
happening
like
in
that.
Good Time to him, too.
I was thinking about that a lot because it's really not that unbelievable of a situation.
That's what I liked about the coincidences. They're just coincidences.
But the thing is that I was thinking is like going out there and your car breaking down. It's the 80s, early 80s.
Yeah.
It's totally a reasonable situation. But yeah, he makes this spider web of all these things that could possibly go wrong, like layer after layer after layer after layer. Which made it even more astounding that this was written when he was just like absolutely blown
that's
out
the
of his
thing.
fucking
That's what I think
mind.
about. Like he doesn't remember writing this. Are you crazy?
This is like
it's complicated.
the wire detailed level in terms of layering the story. Like I imagine like King just being like, having like the Post-it notes and all this. Like, well, I got Kemp here. And then I got, Vic and Roger that are back in.
I got the delivery boys who are not going to talk about Cujo.
There's
and
Alba's wife who can't keep her days of the week straight, which is really going to help me out.
That's the thing. Like, and then the whole thing we'll talk about here. It goes all the way back to Aunt Evie, who says some things and then she's dead. You're like, well, what the fuck was the point of that?
She's the John Larroquette of this Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
She really is because in the very, very beginning. She says, and I seen heat lightning last night. Bad sign, Mira. Every heat's a bad sign. People die of heat this summer. It's going to be a bad one. And so the book goes on. You figure, she's just alluding to the fact that it's going to be so hot in the summertime. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, you miss the part where she says that, people can die of the heat this summer. And they talk about the very end. They say, it's a really nice little part here. They go, this is almost a part of our later section of word processor of their God, but we'll jump to this part. In the driveway, the somnolent summer flies had found the corpse of Cujo and that of Sheriff Bannerman, husband to Victoria, father to Katrina. They had no preference between the dog and the man. They were democratic flies. The sun blared triumphantly down. It was 10 minutes of 1 now, and the field shimmered and danced with silent summer. The sky was faded blue denim. Aunt Evie's prediction had come true. But on both counts, they came true. Because it was a scorcher and people died.
How did you read that Tad died?
You mean like technically? How did he die? He died of heat.
It was
heat
in
the car.
Stroke, like a severe heat stroke.
And,
yeah,
because he dies right when she gets out of the car, right? Or is it
we don't
when
know how
Sheriff?
long he's been dead.
Yeah.
He's been having those convulsions.
It's possible he was dead for a while and she just convinced herself or was just too out of it to realize that he was actually dead.
Do you think he died when she was pulling his tongue? And
no, I think he lives after that.
Oh, yeah, okay.
He lives after that.
He feels his pulse at one point,
like
before she gets out to fight Cujo for the final battle, and he's like weak and thready or something. And
yeah, but he's still alive, I think, or who knows? At that point, though, she's also becoming a little disoriented because she got bit by a rabid dog.
Yeah, that's true.
Where was Luis Pasteur when you needed him? He invented the cure to rabies.
This is like such a tangent, just so quickly. Just coming off of Danse Macabre, did you guys notice all the monster talk, of course, with the monster words? And like he's constantly dropping, like on the first page, he says about Frank Dodd, he was not a werewolf, vampire, ghoul, or unnameable creature from the enchanted forest or from the snowy wastes. And I was like, did you just love talking about monsters so much in Danse Macabre that you like wanted to stick a lot of that in here?
I feel like he was writing Danse Macabre. He's like, I'm going to use this a little bit here for the beginning of my next book, Cujo.
Well, to go back to the advertising thing for a second, I thought that the monster words and the fact that Vic happened to be, or he writes, advertising editorials. I mean, he writes copy for advertising and marketing, and a lot of it is to dissuade, or not to dissuade, is to kind of like pull a fast one over people. I mean, he wants to actually be like honorable and try to like be as truthful as possible. But in this whole apology with the Professor Cereal thing, I thought that there was a parallel between the monster words and the fact that like he has to live with the fact that like he gave these monster words to his kid, and then the monster in the end actually killed him. And I wonder if like that's supposed to be, again, like his commentary on marketing and just
the
how
truth
this,
in
like,
advertisement. But what is the truth in advertisement?
Well, yeah, like, and just like how much we're given, like how much bullshit we're given on a daily basis, not only from our parents, but from the people around us, and how much we live on a bed of lies. And that's why I felt like the monster word had to be tied to his advertising thing it just felt too,
I did not buy the breakthrough being like, oh, we have to be honest and apologize. That will sell. That will get us back in the the black.
Like, no, this is America. You'll get forgiven for this stuff.
You know what would happen if they pitched that? The same thing that Larry Miller tells Christopher Guest in Waiting for Godot. It's like, are you what's wrong with you? Are you insane? Like, there's no way,
because
it would never fly.
Because I got the irrational feelings of the bosses of the Sharp company being mad at the admin who literally had nothing to do with what went wrong, and they had this ad campaign going on for forever before the fucking red dye incident, but they were placing the blame on them. I absolutely got that. Like the people at the top always remain safe. It's the people at the bottom that get the axe.
Yeah.
But yeah,
look
like
at our president
like
right now.
This. Yeah, there you go. But like, yeah, this idea of the nation will forgive us. I'm like, this guy must be one hell of an actor to sell this.
I just love Stephen King trying to convincingly be like, Vic is an advertising genius. Here's a sampling of some of the ads they've done in the past. Yeah. And I'm like, these are insane.
Yes.
I'm like, how drunk are you? Oh, okay, that makes more sense now.
I think I wrote like on page 39. I've heard of Don Draper, even Don King, but Stephen King.
It'd be Mad Men, but literally Mad Men.
He's like writing, that is so that totally. I was like he's actually going to try to write ad copy or something, like, which is ridiculous. But
we should talk about some of the foreshadowing. Some of the foreshadowing I actually did like, but some of it was a little, because I know Mike just hates all foreshadowing.
No, I don't hate all foreshadowing. I like really good foreshadowing. Like I like
because I liked the neither of them thought about Cujo again until they read about him in the paper, because that's pretty vague.
That's vague, and that's fine.
Those stingers are great,
but I wish the scene of Tad having the dream about the baseball bat wasn't there, because I think that goes back to the whole supernatural thing becomes a little more skewed.
Is that the dream where he's
and then Frank Dodd appears?
But then is that also the dream where he's like, oh, then he was looking at his older self?
Yeah.
And that's very like The Shine. That's very Danny and Tony
to show up.
I don't like if Tad is going to be having these prophetic dreams, and then he's so insistent on going with his mother in that breaking down Pinto to Joe Chambers' place. It's like, all right, so you're psychic, but only when your life isn't in danger.
So I guess he's like, as a 4-year, it's probably like, shiny sun or something.
But I
4
feel
years are
like
stupid, apparently.
he's probably more frightened of staying home where the closet is, and then going out with his mother.
And it
what I mean?
contributes to the bleakness of like, it's not enough. It's not enough to have prophetic dreams all the time.
It's not. But okay, here's a good one. I want everybody's opinion on this. Near the end, one of the sections, and not chapters, obviously, but it's 12:30 when Donna Trenton stepped out of her Pinto for the last time. Now, when you read that, what did you think that meant? That she was going to die? In that part?
Well, you didn't know, but I mean, she's pretty banged up by that point.
Yeah.
But with everybody, with like Vic on the way, we know Vic's already on the way out there, right?
I think so.
At that point, so we're you're kind of like, I don't know, maybe she's gonna.
But again, that's like a good piece of being light on the foreshadowing. It's not saying next time she got out of her car, she'd be dead.
I like it too, because as readers, we're like, we can't be in this car for much longer.
Yeah, we got to get out of the claustrophobia of the car.
We also, like, up until this point, I mean, most Stephen King books, I mean, even though there are some dour endings, there's usually like a hero or someone that lives and someone that usually something good or someone good kind of gets out or gets away or something. So you're kind of still like, well, one of them's maybe. And like, I think that, again, the reason why this is so bleak and it just feels so real is that, Tad does die.
Yeah.
And they have to move on. Like, it's.
And I think, though, in terms of the quote-unquote happy ending, I mean, at the end of the day, because of all these things that happen, I do think that Charity and Brett's lives are going to be better.
Totally.
And that's why I do like the inclusion of the whole Charity thing. I think the payoff for that really works for me. Because there's definitely times, Mike, we were talking about how early in the book, like, these intense things are happening. And then you jump to, like, Charity having ice cream with Brett.
Yes.
Like, what the fuck's going on here?
Like when Donna steps out of her car.
Yeah. It's like, Mom, Dad's not answering the phone.
Let's cut to 10 pages of Charity and Brett. And then also Vic and Roger eating, like, pastrami on rye. I'm like, are you fucking nuts? Go back to the car.
But that's why, but again, like, when all was said and done, I get why that was there. It's also just to show that awful things happen all the time. And this is obviously an awful instance, but the world, there's still things happening
Yes.
everywhere else in the world.
And
people eating ice cream with their kids, people eating with their coworkers,
The senselessness is so well done, I think, because especially because he starts the book with once upon a time, setting you up to think, oh, it's a fable. There's going to be a moral at the end. And then even beyond Tad dying, which is awful, and I did not expect it to happen. I thought, like Max said, the kid was going to be fine. He's like, it's not enough. I have to tell you what happened to the rabbit. The rabbit died a slow and painful death. It starved. The bats moved on. I don't know where they went, but
I love that.
Yeah.
the rabbit definitely did not get away. Thank you and good night. Like, there's
it's
that once
just-
upon a time thing, forget it. Like, the moral is that if you fall into a hole, you starve. Sorry.
Maybe it is about the bunny.
Ooh.
That's a deep Twin Peaks reference right there. But I thought it was. I loved seeing the rabbit come back at the same time. But I was like, oh yeah, I remember that. That's a nice little bookend.
It's like the whole point of the book is there's no Johnny Smith isn't out there to save the day in real life. It's just that people live and people die, and Cujo was actually a good dog, and that's a wrap. Like
I have to, in terms of, look, I love a lot of King foreshadowing. I gotta clarify this. I gotta clarify this because I do think he's great at foreshadowing. I mean, some of the foreshadowing in the Shining is some of my favorite pieces of writing from him. And,
Mike just tried to bite my brother reaching over for the Indian.
Hey, I was Donna at the end.
That's right.
Just biting the paramedics. But there's gluttonous like foreshadowing in this.
Yeah,
There's no need for Vic to have these dreams.
That's what I'm saying. I don't like the Tad dream, and I don't like the Vic dream because it's kind of like, well, what is this, what are we trying to tell here?
Look how specific this dream gets for Vic, and this is where I just started to lose it. Like I threw the book even like
where the supernatural might come in. But go ahead.
Yeah,
it could be the supernatural. Yeah, but like on page 283 of the Pocketbooks edition. This is a long chapter about this sprawling dream, probably wedged between like something that's really interesting happening with Donna and Tad. But he writes, the monster in his dream hadn't been a giant ape though, because he likens it to King Kong and Fay Ray and everything. It had been a what? Dragon? No, nothing like that. Not a dragon, not a dinosaur, not a troll. He couldn't get it. Whatever it was, it couldn't quite get in and get Donna and Tad. So it was merely waiting outside their bolt hole, like a cat waiting with dreadful patience for a mouse. Or the exact Saint Bernard that is waiting literally outside their door right now.
Not a
at
dragon,
this very
not a
minute.
dinosaur, some other D word.
like SB comes to mind, a saint something.
Like you go read that, but then you go back like a few books and you read that scene with Jack Torrance and his family at the hotel when everyone's about to leave, and you see this really gorgeous way of building kind of subtle foreshadowing. Mm-hmm. And you're like, okay, that's great. That's prestige foreshadowing. And this is like USA Network foreshadowing that is just blah. Like, what are you doing? Like, come on, just, you don't need this. You've already done so much to kind of let us know that there is something bad happening. And again, it just goes back to what I was saying before is like even Mel had just pointed out, like there's so many details that are that are kind of welded together to make this situation happen and to convince you that this situation could happen, that any other foreshadowing just feels like you're eating this like cake that someone comes by and goes, oh, hey, here's some more icing to put on top of your cake or whatever. You're just like, I don't need it. I don't need it.
Yeah, I agree. Those are the two parts that easily. Again, I feel like that kind of comes into the whole, if you're listening, if you're drinking a lot, you tend to lose focus a little bit, and that might have been a little part of that. I don't know if that would have necessarily been in there if he was totally thinking about everything else he's been writing throughout the entire book, and now you're going to throw in these kind of, well, maybe this is definitely a supernatural.
Well, because like especially with Vic, this whole monster dream is supposed to kind of go lead up to this whole revelation he has when he goes into Tad's room and sees the closet, and he's like, and then he sees the bear, and he's like, bear closet, and it's. I mean, it's literally just like an Independence Day when Jeff Goldblum's like, he's like sitting on the floor, and then his dad's like, "Oh, you got to get up. You're gonna get a cold." Wait, what'd you say? Cold? Like, oh my gosh, the aliens, cold virus. I could kill him. Like, you don't God, need.
I hate that movie.
But that's one of those reasons why. And like South Park makes fun of it all the time. But in that situation, it was so unnecessary too, because literally like one scene before that, he had found out that like Yeah, we sent Bannerman over there, the sheriff.
Yeah.
We haven't heard back from him. He's probably just drinking coffee somewhere. And it's just like, okay. First off, this detective was really into the details before,
asshole.
but now he's just going to gloss over that. And then that was enough for Vic to go, well, no, I'm actually going to check over the camper thing. But no, instead, King goes upstairs, has this whole closet thing to bring all this pointless...
Well, as a father
I digress.
myself of 3 children, 3 beautiful young boys. I'm lying. I'm not a father. I felt like at that point, I kind of think that after you get off the phone in that intensive situation, I thought that he felt just totally powerless and was kind of looking to get as close to his family as possible. So he goes to his son's room. I do agree with you, though, Mike. Everything happens after that. It gets very confusing as to what's trying to be said here. Because there's even times during that, especially after he dreams, where he doesn't quite see the bear. He convinces himself it's not real. It's really just a way of him saying there's something going on. And the closet door thing never bothered me either. And they do a good point of pointing this out in the film, where he tries to close the closet door and it opens up again, and he closes it again, opens it up again. That's just a case of an older house. And doors going out of line. That's all that was to me when the doors would
You are
open
going to
back up.
die in a haunted house, my friend.
I'll be the last person. I'll be the person that reasons, and then their ghost pops up behind me, and everybody's like, "No!" And then I get my head chopped off.
Bozeman is going to get
Beaumont, Ogman.
Yeah, Beaumont Ogman comes into this book big time. That's
The whole
that's
boogeyman
a King's
aspect.
Dominion
Absolutely.
aspect for sure.
Well, I guess like structurally, because we're still we're talking about structure and format.
Sure.
Did you like the way it bounced back? I mean, I get that he had to have these other side stories to kind of separate the tension. I mean, you have to go somewhere. I mean, if it was just the car, that would be insane.
Well, he does a good job of, from what I've heard, like with Gerald's game, where it is literally in just one setting.
Yeah.
But to that, let me ask you this, Mike, and I'll ask you, Mel. I'll ask you this question, and Mac, I'll ask you this question.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna say.
Do you feel that both the title of the book and the description on the back of not only this copy but other copies that we've had over the last 30-something years do a disservice to the actual novel?
Well, why don't we read those descriptions?
Oh yeah, because we usually do.
All right, well, we're in this section. Let's read it real quick. I'll read mine real quick here. This is the one that Mel, Mike, and myself have, which is just these Simon & Schuster paperback editions, which are just abominations to art. It says, Cujo used to be a big friendly dog, lovable and loyal to his trinity, the man, the woman, the boy, and everyone around him, and always did his best not to be a bad dog, all in caps. But that all ends on this day. The nearly 200-pound St. Bernard makes the mistake of chasing a rabbit into a hidden underground cave, setting off a tragic chain of events. Now Cujo is no longer himself, as he is slowly overcome by growing sickness, one that consumes his mind even as his once affable thoughts turn uncontrollably and inexorably to hatred and murder. Cujo is about to become the center of a horrifying vortex that will inescapably draw in everyone around him, a relentless reign of terror, fury, and madness from which no one in Castle Rock will truly be safe. That's such bullshit at the end, by the way. That's like you said, Mel. Like this, everybody's fine except for the people that go to the fucking garage.
Oh wait,
That goes into what you were saying before, though, and I can't remember if we recorded that. If it was something when we were talking before, but you were saying when you thought that this was the dog's going to be wandering around the streets.
No, that's what you said.
I did say,
yeah,
that's
like,
my first impression was totally wrong.
And I feel like that there's such a disservice there because there's just a lot of other
what
things
else
going on.
are they going to write? Like there are deep themes about dysfunctional marriages
But that's
in
the
this
thing,
book, and
because
also a rabid dog.
And that is the thing. I feel like the King was so pigeonholed at the time, though, as to being just a strictly horror writer. So of course you got to sell the book, and this has got to be the only way to describe it. Because if
like
you call
road
it
work.
something like an event at the Camber's garage,
Professor Cereal.
or
Yeah.
an occurrence at Camber's garage, then it's a whole different story.
I wish it was called
The
Zingers.
description,
That'd be great.
the description for
Red
the,
Zingers.
the Signet book edition is a little bit more concise, but it's still ridiculous. It says his bite is worse than his bark.
Oh.
Cujo. It happens innocently enough, but doesn't it always? A big friendly dog chases a rabbit into a hidden underground cave and stirs a sleeping evil crueler than death itself. A terrified 4-year-old boy sees his bedroom closet door swing open untouched by human hands and screams at the unholy red eyes gleaming in the darkness. The little Maine town of Castle Rock is about to be invaded by the most hideous menace ever to savage the flesh and devour the mind.
This is
Now,
ridiculous.
I mean, obviously,
misleading.
you read
Oh my
that, and then
God.
even this last line though says the most hideous menace ever to savage the flesh and devour the mind. I mean, obviously, they're talking about rabies, but like
You think it's-
this
yeah.
is totally like now again, they're trying to hook Stephen King readers who know him for that stuff. So like,
That's what
I
I'm saying.
feel like that was I feel like he's absolutely aware, like you were saying, Justin, about
Or it wasn't necessarily him; it's his publishers.
Yeah, but I think that this book is absolutely. He was totally aware that they're going to be thinking that it's a supernatural story the whole time, and that he was definitely playing with them the entire book.
And Cujo's on the prowl.
And he says right in the beginning, that first page, that like Frank Dodd is not a monster. I mean, he's a monster, but of a different kind.
Yeah.
And we just choose to just keep thinking, okay, well, there's still going to be something supernatural here. But at the end, he wraps it up and brings it home. I mean, I love that ending though. Just like where he goes back and talks about the rabbit and the hole.
I won't cover that in greater detail too. But
totally.
Mike, do you have something here?
Well, I have an interesting comparison since I really keep driving this point home. Here is the description for Jaws, the 1974.
Oh, here we go. Yeah, go ahead.
Jaws is a 1974 novel by American writer Peter Benchley. It tells the story of a great white shark that preys upon a small resort town and the voyage of three men trying to kill it. Look how simple that is compared to literally everything that was in the Cujo book.
Exactly, yeah.
Here's you rewrite it. Cujo is a 1981 novel by American writer Stephen King. It tells the story of a great Saint Bernard that preys upon a small resort town and the voyage of a mother and a child who is preyed upon it. Or is preyed upon. It was preyed by.
Who preyed upon. Yeah.
I love the Jaws comparison now, especially since Donna's going to try and find her place, and no one's a real New Englander unless you were born in Maine, and she's never felt at home
that's
in
like
Maine.
the whole sheriff.
And now she's
and that's
a
the
good
Sheriff
point.
Brody thing.
That's a good point.
You know what? This is to go. I actually took a photo of this because I read an editorial last night about this. So this is. I think this is on StephenKing.com or one of his sites, one of the fan sites. Kind of goes into this a little bit. In the spring of 1977, Stephen King took his motorcycle to a mechanic who lived outside of Bridgeton.
Oh, this is
Maine,
from StephenKing.com. I've got the same thing, Mike.
in the middle of nowhere. I took the bike out there and I just barely made it. And this huge St. Bernard came out of the barn growling. Then this guy came out, and I mean, he was Joe Camber. He looked almost like those guys out of Deliverance. And I was retreating and wishing that I was not on my motorcycle when the guy said, "Don't worry, he don't bite." And so I reached out to pet him, and the dog started to go for me. And the guy walked over and said, "Down, Gonzo," or whatever the dog's name was, and gave his huge whack on the rump. And the dog yelped, and he sat down. The guy said, "Gonzo never done that before. I guess he don't like your face." And that became the central situation of the book, mixed with those old movies of the week, the made-for-television movies that they used to have on ABC. I thought to myself, what if you could have a situation that was an extension of one scene? It would be the ultimate TV movie. There would be one set. There would be one room. You'd never even have to change the camera angle. So there's that one very small place, and it became Donna's Pinto. And everything just flowed from that situation. The big dog and the Pinto. I just, like, when I read
Gordon
that...
Cole, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, it was Gordon Cole.
Amazing.
But
as always.
reading that and knowing that, like, he drew influences from these old TV movies, and who was one of the biggest TV movies at the time, like, one of the filmmakers that made one was
Duel?
Stephen King. I mean, not Stephen King. Steven Spielberg.
Yeah.
Who with Duel, which was very similar
unending source of
encapsulation
terror.
with genre stories, and then you also, I mean, it just, the fact that this came out of that Hollywood medium for him tied it. I think it speaks to that sort of self-awareness of, like, him wanting to, like, oh well, people know me as this guy that comes up with certain tales based on various subjects or whatever,
And it's like you said, you mentioned that you could just have, like, the one camera on the car the entire time. So I think that was definitely the basis of the plot. But then obviously, you have to flesh it out unless you want to just keep it, like you said, in just that car.
He had this really great idea about Vic and Raj and the ad business.
Yeah. What if you said, like, I saw that dog come out and I thought about this campaign, this company called AdWorks with Roger and a Vic, and there's a cereal and there's red.
You know
dog.
what it was? I bet you he was writing a Richard Bachman book about Vic and Raj, and then was like, in his deep alcoholic depression, was like, just accidentally started writing the next chapter of Cujo on the same document as AdWorks.
There was just no room for them in Roadwork, so they had to go here.
They feel right out of Roadwork.
Roadwork was such a tight novel; you couldn't insert anything else in there. Mike, you still haven't read Roadwork, right?
I got about.
Speaking of avoidance, you mercifully avoided that.
I got 60 pages in, and then I texted everyone and was like, "I'm out."
Dude, you were never going to do the episode, but you were just trying to read it.
No,
but then it's
yeah.
like you're like I can't even like keep up with everybody else.
And then I skipped
Forget
over to Cujo.
I just read the Cliff Notes version of Cujo.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Should we talk
my
about characters?
God.
eventually?
Let's talk about the characters of Cujo.
You mean the zeros and villains?
You got it, brother.
I'm gonna have to kill this fucking clown. Welcome to the Losers Club, asshole!
Well, let's kick things off talking about that old rascally dog, the old rabid dog himself, the good boy at the end of the day, Cujo. I have a little bit of a history about the name Cujo, and they mention it in the book. Let's go even further back. In the mid-'70s, I think we talked about this on an episode, King was talking about writing a fictionalized version of the Patty Hearst story. She's the Hearst Harris that was kidnapped, essentially brainwashed, and allegedly became part of this kind of terrorist organization, the SLA.
Right.
And they'd mentioned offhand how Cujo is the dog. The name comes from a nickname of one of those people in the SLA. Now, here's a little history I did after reading the book. You ready for this? Mm-hmm. You ready for your minds to be blown? Are you ready for your minds to be blown?
Oh, yeah.
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 Justin, go.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay. So the nickname, the person who had the nickname Cujo, his real name was Willie Wolf. What does Brett name the new dog at the end of the book? Willie. And Patty Hearst, as her Tanya brainwashed persona, says, Cujo was the gentlest, most beautiful man I have ever known. Neither Cujo or I had ever loved an individual the way we loved each other. I just felt there's a little bit of like the Brett, and like he was the best dog I'll ever know.
Yeah.
And
He's
we
being
loved each other.
gentle on the onset.
Yeah. I got a little choked. I'm getting choked up now thinking about that because I too. We haven't really talked about this in great detail, all of us, but like I really love dogs.
Well, you know,
love
I
dogs.
just remember this one
Added a little something
time
to it.
when Justin was looking at our dog.
That's
And
good.
he was just like, petting her, and we were sitting in the living room, and everybody's quiet watching TV. And he just looked up and he said, if she really wanted to, in the middle of the night, she could just tear our throats out. And he said it in such a sweet way, like he was still petting her, like, she could just tear our throats out if she wanted to in the middle of the night, because she's a beast living in our house.
Shout
And
out
it's
to
very
Dixie
true.
Belle, a cute, most adorable like, little Carolina dog. She had a little fused broken legs, so she kind of hopped around.
Dixie.
Never barked. Nicest dog alive, but guess what? Those teeth,
They're real.
they're real, baby.
Oh, but I've thought about that multiple times when I watch Sammy's dog sometimes.
Especially a pit bull,
It's a
you
pit
know?
bull, and
Yeah.
he would sit there and just right next to me and just stare at me. And his dog's very like human-like, and it's Kevin.
His name's Kevin, for God's
His name's
sake.
Kevin.
It's a human name.
And he just would just sit there and stare at me sitting right next to me, and it like that same thought did occur to me. I was like, this dog absolutely has the power and strength to just rip my fucking head off. And
nothing I can
like,
do
I can't do anything about it if he wants to do that. And it is kind of scary. I mean,
Well, at the end of the day, I mean, dogs are just beasts.
that's what makes it such a brilliant
Wow.
subversion, is that like,
except for Dixie Belle, man.
something
I know,
that we
our dog.
reliably, lean upon as a friend and a source of like goodness and like hope even sometimes. And just like we put all our like bad like omens on, like we shut them aside when we were with dogs, and we just like hug them and we love them, and we just feel good. And for him to take that away and make it, it turns the tables, and then they're going to prey upon you on a literal and metaphorical level, is genius. I mean, it's kind of like, I'm trying to think of another book that is this accessible and relatable. That everyone, especially in the American family, the dogs are such.
Well,
a
that's the
huge
difference
presence.
between this and Jaws, obviously, because great whites are predators, and we don't. I never had a shark as a pet.
But I love beaches,
And not
beaches
everybody,
are fun.
not everybody loves dogs, but I think he
don't trust those people, first of all. I won't say that right off the
then he
bat.
wrote Pet Cemetery, and we had church. So
That's right.
Church and
Everybody gets a little.
Well, everyone knows that if a cat was the size of a Saint Bernard, we would all be dead.
No question.
Ooh, like Martin.
I tell people all the time. Your cats would literally murder you the moment they could.
Well,
but I like
100%.
But
We have a cat's eye. We
they
have,
can't. So
we have the cat, sitting on the chest, taking in the breath of its victim.
well, so the parents thought in cat's eye.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he's constantly giving us Cujo's specs in this book. It's a 200-pound
Oh, God.
Saint Bernard. And even when those are friendly, if you're walking one and it wants to go somewhere, whether or not
Yeah.
it's vicious, it's
Yeah.
taking you there. It's very scary.
And that's why I felt like when they first met Cujo, like there was that foreshadowing there, like, oh, something scary about this dog. It's just because it's huge.
Yeah, that's all that was.
You know,
yeah.
I don't think. I mean, yeah, you could take it as foreshadowing, and because you know that the story's about a dog that goes rabid or whatever. But
no, the description in the back of the book didn't make it seem like that.
But yeah, so I just this dog is huge. It's even as gentle as it might be, it's still like at the end of the day, you're like, this thing could just eat me whole.
It's in the movie. It's really shown how huge that dog is next to little Danny Pintaro.
Yeah.
So this is also, I know in The Stand, Kojak, the dog, does get a little chapter of his own where we kind of see things through his eyes.
Mm-hmm.
But is this is only the second instance of that being of a non-human. We're following a non-human around, right?
Oh, you talking about King becoming a dog? Yeah.
Yeah, but King becoming a dog, a real dog. And this, so my question is to you. Well, I'll say right off the bat, I thought it actually worked because for me, but again, Mel, you felt differently about this. For me, the Cujo POV chapters, for me, I keep saying for me. By the way, this is my perspective.
Not for me.
No, I don't speak on behalf of everybody, but this is for me.
That would be Justin.
That made it feel like, oh, this is absolutely just a dog gone rabid, and what might happen when a dog goes rabid, and what the quote unquote thought process is of a dog losing its mind. So I enjoyed the Cujo POV chapters. I didn't feel that because that easily for me could have been really stupid, but I thought it kind of worked, and especially early on, you kind of fall for this dog, which is pretty easy to do because it's a dog to begin with, and we all love dogs. And how everybody else feel about the Cujo chapters, though?
Oh, I don't think we completely disagree.
Yeah.
All I think is that there's something about the disease that is a little bit more intelligent than it should be. Like there's some element of evil there that gives Cujo, when he's rabid, this additional foresight.
Yeah.
But that's like neither here nor there. I really like the Cujo chapters, and I do think you're supposed to think this is the dog's realistic thought processes. It's a known fact that Stephen King is a huge fan of Watership Down, and so am I. And so I really love when he goes into animal POV, which I think he does more in later books, and he kind of just like dips in there sometimes. And I love that stuff. I love the capitalization of his Trinity, as the back of the book calls it, like the boy, the woman, the man. I think he does a really good job of making the language simplistic but still captivating when you're a dog. It reminds me, there's this great short story that I can't remember the name of, but I just love the way different authors treat going into dogs' minds. In this short story, like, you'd expect the dogs to be really excited or whatever. This dog just swears all the time. And like, I'm the fucking fastest dog that ever fucking lived, and like, you better run because you can't keep up with me because I'm fucking great. And like,
I love that. That's great.
But I think I really liked it, and I think King really likes animals. Like, I don't
totally.
know where I get this from, but
He loves. He loves.
Instagram page.
He's got his corgi
or his Twitter page.
Molly, Thing of Evil.
Thing of Evil.
yeah.
Mike,
the thing is, the problem I have with the dog chapters is pretty much the same thing with Mel, and that's that it does confirm things. Is that it gets a little bit too like specific with the thoughts of how far the rabid disease can be, you know, like, or what the higher intelligence of the disease, where I don't think you really needed to do that, where it just starts confirming a lot of fears that Donna has that were just on her own thoughts, and the matches that you make of those. Like, I just think it's more effective for Donna to think, oh, I'm seeing this dog. This dog is staring at me, and we're actually seeing each other on a spiritual level. I think it's more effective to see it from her eyes, and to know if that's a fear that she's having, as opposed to then hearing it from Cujo going like, yeah, I am staring at you.
Yeah,
I'm going to
fuck you.
the thing.
Fuck you, I'm the fastest dog. I'm going to eat you alive.
That aside, like, I do like being able to kind of have those shifting perspectives because it is cool, and especially it's great to use as a medium to kind of break up the tension. You know, like when she comes around outside of the door and Cujo's like, you know, sitting underneath the hood. That's a great scene to kind of use for pacing, even though it gets a little too, you know, it gets a little too precious for me with just like the way that he's able to kind of get into the specifics of what the dog's actually breaking this down.
But I also think that the reason he did that, that we have the POV stuff for the dog, is because if we didn't, it would be really easy to just, you know, see this as a supernatural thing. But I feel like when we do go to the dog, it's just like, oh, this dog's just sick.
Yeah, exactly.
And it doesn't understand what's going on and is just kind of like at his wit's end. And it's like the over-explaining. It's like in the instance where less is more, I feel like he was trying to prove that this is just a dog. Like that, here's his actual thought process, and he's just going after. And like I see what you're saying, Mel, with the like there might be some other force at work, kind of guiding him. I never looked at it like that, but I can kind of see that now. But I do think that those POV shots, if you will, are there because he's trying to once again dispel the idea that there is something supernatural at work.
And I think overall, though, what worked was even though we're going back and forth between the human perspectives, no matter where they are, and Cujo. Even though you get these Cujo chapters for me that kind of like say, okay, well, this is just a rabid dog. Just like the other people involved, there are still moments where you're like, well, maybe there is something else going on here. And I do like how the book is structured in such a way. King can't tell us this, obviously, because he was drunk. But, that kind of goes back and forth between, is this real? Could this really be happening? Or is this all just because the work of like a fantastical supernatural element? And so that would work. So yeah, long story short, I like the Cujo chapters. And they could have been an absolute disaster. The Hills of Ice Part 2 is a good example of that, where they cut to a dog having a flashback from the first movie.
Wait, really?
Yeah. Great moments of early 80s horror films right there. But let's get into the humans, and we'll obviously be talking about Cujo on and off, as we are inevitably going to have to do. Let's talk about the Trentons, Donna, Tad, and Papa Vic. Where do we want to start off with that holy trinity right there? Donna, perhaps?
Let's start with Donna.
DT, Donna Trenton.
She's great. The lover. No.
Okay, moving on. Tad was a little boy. No,
I like Mel mentioned earlier about like just going into the female characters a little bit more and fleshing them out more, or I guess the most in this, because you have Charity and Donna. I think we spend a lot of time with them and their points of view, and the whole storyline between her and Vic and Steve is very satisfying to me. I think we really get into that, and she's a really complicated character because I don't feel like she's ever made out to be this person like we're supposed to demonize. Like she's we really get in touch with even Vic too, just like the human aspect of these characters, and it's complicated. Like she's a good mom. And it's made some bad decisions, and I think almost everybody's like that in the real world and can connect to that. And I really connected with Donna. I think it was just well written.
I think if you break down the Charity and Donna characters, is that they're both fiercely protective over their children, and then we see that in the book in two totally different ways. That's what we could break down that. But Mel, did you?
We've been talking about kind of the book being bleak and a little bit involved with senselessness. And I think one other side of that coin is that a lot of the people here that have made bad decisions are blameless. Like this is a thing that happened and it's not their fault. And like you said, we're not supposed to demonize Donna for cheating. Like she goes into her reasons for it. And even though we sympathize with Vic feeling really, really hurt and like his marriage is falling apart, and when you get her reasoning, you're like, God, yeah, that does sound like a shitty life. And like everyone's done the thing where they're like, I'm going to sleep with this person, but like, oh God, no, they're terrible. They're terrible. Afterwards, you realize they're like a terrible person. So I really liked her. And she even deals with the fact that like, I think it's hinted at that Tad kind of likes Vic more than her. Like he's more of a daddy's boy. He comes up with the monster words. Yeah. He's like the guy who's comforting him about the closet. And Donna has to, I don't know, like, I don't want to say earn her stripes, but she becomes this, like, fearsome, protective mom in that car. And everything she does is for Tad. Like, she doesn't ever think of herself in that situation.
Yeah, because there's moments where she's like, I could go for the bat, I could go for this. And she's like, I can't leave Tad alone.
Yeah, the risk is
like she talks about, how the situation would fare so much differently if it was just her in the car.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it is, the sacrifices that you make, that mothers make, while rearing children. I mean, I think it's a lot of that. I mean, like this is a very mathematical book when you really think about all the different variables that are circling around each other. And the fact that you have Charity and Donna as these two figures that are really the main characters of the two parallel stories that are going on. And you have like Vic and that's in between in the sense. But, the idea that you have Charity comes from this really miserable, like not very nurturing family with Joe that just is a miserable person. And then you have Vic, who is nurturing, but at the same time, it shows that like it's the grass is always greener in different situations. Like that whole saying of just like, oh yeah, the grass is always greener. But it's like, well, it doesn't matter which situation you're in. Sometimes you're going to have like issues. You're going to have problems. There's going to be demons. There's going to be these awful things that are going to just thwart your existence. And for me, it was like watching both women being able to kind of wrestle with these things while also knowing that they're a mother and knowing what children kind of tie them down to their respective identities also. And like, how do you continue to have and maintain your own identity when there's these, it's not even just the societal expectations, but just, I think expectations just in general from your own family of, well, you are the maternal figure. You need to do this. You need to you need to protect and how you can maintain that sort of individuality. I think a lot of it. I mean, because there's a lot of discussion with Donna, especially with why she went with Kemp and why she hates her time in Castle Rock. And there's a lot of like, even when Vic's trying to figure out where Donna could be, and she's like, oh well, maybe they're at the Tupperware party. And he's like, no, Donna's not gonna go to Tupperware party. It's bullshit stuff. Like, and it's interesting to like see like, so you have two women that are really trying to figure out like who they can be, and like there's this in these respective situations. And I think I don't know, for me, like I thought that was one of the most interesting meditations in the book, because you have, I don't know if there are no answers at that. Like, I mean, I don't think there is ever really an answer in this book about that. But I mean, both of them, I think, have to settle with whatever demons they've had on the table. I mean, like Charity's pretty much stuck at the end, and Donna now is experiencing the loss and grief of her kid. I mean, it's just it's kind of, in that sense, when you look at like just in their own sort of ways of figuring out this kind of like existential crises for these two women, and it's like the conclusions are pretty haunting to me. I mean, I thought that was pretty terrifying at the end. It's just like they're trapped. I mean, really, and now Donna's really trapped. I feel, because I mean, whatever feeling she had with Vic is definitely. I mean, there's this like, I feel like this insistence that they kind of have to be together, maybe now because of this.
I felt like almost the opposite.
Oh, really?
At the end, at least.
At the end, okay.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like, because even King says that the last paragraph with Donna and Vic says, like by the time the leaves turned, that things were a little better, and I think that's saying that like they will get through it. Things will get better as long as they're like communicating with each other, and they're because they are very real with each other there at the end.
Oh yeah,
they talk about that, and then they're like, okay, I'm gonna go make tea, and it's just like that would never have happened before that.
It's striving for normal.
And then even Charity, like they take the money, they're like kind of better off. They get the new dog. It's like they're moving on, and it might not be a grand situation, but in a way, they're kind of saved because Joe's dead. I mean, it's sad that he dies the way he dies, but I think even Brett, he's not under that spell anymore. Now she's the influence.
But I also think that it's almost like this Hemingway sort of Hills Like White Elephants thing, where yes, there is some sort of there's changes and stuff, but they're still in this, like, I mean, she's still going to have to like Charity herself is going to have to work her ass off to keep a place that she wanted to escape now, like that's a fucked up, like, thing that she, in the end, like, I mean, I
think she was trying to escape the marriage, not necessarily where she was or the farm or anything like that or whatever, or I mean the like the auto house or whatever,
I just the way I saw that she was looking at her sister and how her sister was able to get out and do something. That's what I felt.
I thought that she looked at. We'll jump.
Sorry to talk about it.
No, that's cool though. But no, I think with Charity and Holly, I think that the whole thing there was just because her sister's really well off and has like a nice house and is living in a nice neighborhood, doesn't necessarily mean that she has all the answers, and it doesn't necessarily mean that that's what Charity has to do in order to be happy. Because the whole thing with Brett, also earlier on, she's talking about how her fear is, as good as Brett's doing in school right now, like Joe will convince him or force him to just take mechanical classes, and he'll just be just like his father. But I feel like now that Joe's not in the picture, he can keep going to school at Castle Rock.
Yeah.
But he can do whatever he wants in school, and maybe he'll be able to get out that way. I do think it was more of she wanted to escape under Joe's thumb and Joe's way of thinking, Joe's parenthood, and let Brett reach his full potential in that way. And then as for the Donna stuff, though, at the end, I think it's one of those instances of, well, they're still together here. But again, as the whole book has taught us, there's no happy endings.
I was
We don't know what's going to
honestly
happen.
so surprised that they stuck together,
Yeah.
and the ending was happy in a way where I think Vic says, like, there was an hour maybe where I doubted that we'd be together forever and that I love you, but that was after the Kemp thing, but now I know it's like us for good. And I was like, oh my God, like,
Are you sure?
okay,
And
it's
sure
as
about that?
happy as an ending you can get, I guess.
Yeah.
Like,
I
But
would have
again,
thought
who
something.
knows?
I would have thought something different, but just that last bit, that little exchange between them, where she actually says out loud, "I love you too," and he's like, "I think I needed that," and it's like, if she hadn't said anything, it would have been like a little bit more ominous, like maybe they're just kind of doomed, and this thing will never really go away. But I don't think any of that kind of stuff ever goes away. You just have to live with it and deal with it.
Well, I'll tell you, I've got 1,000 pages of fucking notes here, and I cannot find this one piece of note I wanted to really read here. Is a throwaway line, and Roger is regretting, or Roger really wants to leave with Vic to go back to Castle Rock because Vic has just found out about his family being gone. And Roger's saying, I can't do this, man. I can't do this presentation knowing what you're going through, blah, blah, blah. And then Vic, before he leaves, just says, listen, man, all this stuff's going on, blah, 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 but you just got to try. I thought that was really the whole point of this book. It was like the marriage, like, well, you got to try. You got to try, push through. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But if you don't try, then what the fuck's the point of any of this?
well, it's interesting because Roger is presented as this sort of fat, sad sack who has also lost a kid. Like their child died.
Yeah.
They have another one. But Vic muses on that fact and is just like, yeah, they were never really the same. And like, especially the wife is now an alcoholic, and like, we're sort of made to think that maybe that family's a little bit of a lost cause, especially with the ad stuff going down the tubes too. So then it's interesting that he ends up in the same place, but maybe he's discovering, life doesn't end when your child's life ends.
Yeah. The world totally moves on, with or without you.
It's like weirdly saves their marriage in a weird way.
Well, it's like the worst possible thing that could possibly happen to them when you think about it. Is
Right.
your
But
child dying.
I still don't see it as saving the marriage. I really don't.
Oh, no, I'm
maybe
saying
it's
I
just
don't
because
think
I'm
it's
cynical,
necessarily-
but
yeah.
I see it as a way of saying like, yeah, they're coping together. And
Yeah.
it's really like, you can put all your demons on the table, but at the end of the day, like those are there and they're going to always haunt you. I think even like look at the Frank Dodd thing.
Yeah.
I see it as like that metaphor of like, they killed Frank Dodd. They got rid of him. Dodd still kind of affects this town, and it's still something that's changed this town. And what was this kind of happy getaway sort of American life, Norman Rockwell bullshit, whatever. It is now poisoned literally every facet of the town, and I feel like this little story is kind of like a parallel to that idea that like whatever monsters are out there, they can't be vanquished, they can't be killed, they will just kind of permeate into something else. And I feel like whatever ailments that they were going through before in their marriage has now, they're all on the open table. And yes, they are. I agree with the communication thing for sure. I just think that like, I guess this is like tying it with the fairy tale thing with like once upon a time in the beginning and then kind of ending it with like the happiest ending that you could do. I still think that it is like this is just a miserable situation.
Talks about, Donna has a through line where she talks about there's a like sewage pipe running underneath every marriage in America. And that also ties into the image of her mother, who's so obsessed with putting forth a good face for these dinner parties, but at one point this green goop explodes out of the sink and splatters the ceiling. Like, it's all about repression. It's all about not talking about things. I think a great testament to how well done these characters are is the argument she eventually has with Vic about cheating, where I feel like I'm totally on both of their sides. Like, she's really trying to express herself, and he's like, so what, you're scared of getting old? Like, that's what this is about? And you're like, yeah, Vic, I guess I would say that if I had been presented with all this information, but also, Donna, I totally get where you're coming from, girl.
Like that was probably my favorite part about this book is the fact that you see the both sides of the picture, which is kind of, we talked about this with It last week with the movie, and like how like that's a great thing that Stephen King's able to do is he's able to kind of make you understand why these characters go to this way. It's never as black and white as like, oh, this is a person that's bad, this is a person that's good. Like, know that. Like, no, there is like a multifaceted reason for why they do these things. And I never once does it occur to me like, oh, this is a bad, like this is a bad, I guess in a sense that it's a bad decision, but you understand why. And and I think that the thing that drives me nuts so much with a lot of dramas and melodramas is that they always make it as like this sin, and like sin is what caused, it's like them sinning, and like they're the demon like caused this, and it's like, no, it's like you're human. You have these errors, but at the same time, like you have your own reasoning for them, and I don't know.
Well, it's like the whole like all this happened because you did this, as opposed to all this happened because stuff happens.
Chaos.
You know what I mean? But I think it's a testament to the kind of open-ended nature of the book, where we all have four pretty different, well, some of us have more similar views, but we've got different perspectives as to what that ending means. And it's a good way of being open-ended that I actually liked. I don't need a button on that saying,
yeah.
And they lived the next 40 years together and they died in each other's
Yeah,
arms.
exactly.
You know what I mean? It's still kind of like, well, do they still love each other? Is it just for comfort's sake? Is it just because of familiarity? Who knows? But this story is over,
Yeah.
So we'll talk a little bit more about Don as we talk about these other characters, but I think we need to talk about good old Tad. And
Tad.
Look, he's not as major a character as Danny Torrance or Charlie from Firestarter, but this is one of the more, for me, like believable instances of childhood dialogue in this book that he didn't quite nail even in The Shining. I'm not going to say he's as
definitely
powerful
not-
as
definitely
memorable
not The Shining.
But, like you make the joke, Mike, about in The Shining how like sometimes Danny sounds like a 40-year-old man. I know he's got the shine, but
Well, yeah.
But I believed, and I think because King had been a father for a long time up until this point, so I think he had a little bit more of a reference point as to how like a 4 or 5-year-old would talk to their parents.
He just builds the character really well, I love even just that weird. It's not weird, just that little bit of story we get where like Tad's playing all the games, and he has that one game that the No Name game, where he like just sets up all of his cars in a row, and they're like sitting there, and then it says something like, if Tad had the vocab, he basically he doesn't just say it as from Tad's Danny point of view. He's like, well, if Tad had the know-how and vocabulary, he would say that this is like centering his chi, like this is his meditation game or whatever, which is funny because I feel like old King would have just been like written from Tad's point of view.
You'd be like, this is me centering my chi, Dad.
This is my meditation. Yeah. But
could you see like King and Tabitha King sitting down watching Joe Hill doing that very thing like a couple years earlier? Like, it just seemed like it was based on experience,
what is
Playing
Joe
like a
doing?
fire truck or something.
Yeah.
I like firemen.
I feel like Tad is super realistic, but in that sense, he's also just not super interesting. He's meant to represent potential and innocence and something to protect, and I think he's written very well, but he's a 4-year-old, so
And
that's all I
again,
have to say about
he's not
him.
like the center of the story. Like you say, he's not like Charlie or Danny where they're going to take up a third of the book. He's just there to kind of, you're protecting Tad. You're existing, Don is here to protect the boy and save the boy. And we have to think about the boy when it comes to our marriage and all of that
And we
stuff.
get frustrations associated with him too, like if she's frustrated about the Pinto and he's crying and she's like, oh my God, shut up.
But that's
so,
realistic too,
yeah,
you know? That's
totally,
what I liked about that. It's
totally.
just like you're going to snap. And they do a good point of the breaking points in this, with not just Tad, obviously, but with Donna in that Pinto. And you're not going to be a hero the entire time. It's impossible. It's not real.
Yeah.
You're going to snap and you're going to have your breaking points. And you're going to have to take it out on somebody. And why not take it out on this kid? This little stupid fucking kid next to you. No.
It's named Tad.
Yeah. Is that short for something? Is it just
I think
Tad?
Tadpole Trenton, isn't it?
Like Tad
Tadpole Trenton?
like Tad Thiedemann.
Tad Theaterman.
Tad, the old grunge
That's a
band.
really deep reference, Mac.
Good
old
I
grunge
know. Good old sex wieners and boobs.
That's a play.
Yeah, it's a play. Yeah, all right. I also just like seeing the closet from Tad's point of view because I definitely felt like that when I was that age.
Oh, wow.
I mean, and spot on. I mean, you see things that aren't there. And I also love the little parallels where, I think even Donna talks at one point about being in the closet and thinking she was going to see this girl that she used to know, like with no head. And so it's like, yeah, even though Tad's only 4 and these things don't exist, like even as an adult, you still have those thoughts and feelings.
What's the suggestion?
And and I kind of dug seeing Tad's point of view, and then the adults and some of the adults, they still kind of believe in the other.
Yeah, and then of course with good old Tad, we've got to talk about what we talked about a little bit earlier is him dying. Because Mel, you had never seen the movie before you read the book.
No, totally did not expect Tad to die, especially in the way that he did. And I mean, I don't want to say I love that, but I loved that ending. It totally caught me off guard, and I was like, all right, he did commit. Totally bleak book. Great. I feel very upset.
Well, I don't want to spoil the movie for you, but in the movie he does not die.
He doesn't die in the movie?
So I saw the movie first. So when I was reading the book, I was really like, okay, then she's going to take him into the house and she's going to do mouth to mouth.
I kept waiting for resuscitation.
Oh, no. And it just doesn't happen.
Well, I thought even when I thought Vic was wrong when he was like, how long has he been dead?
Yeah.
And there's the point where she's giving him mouth to mouth and it's saying like she breathed for her son. And I'm like, okay, he's going to come back. No. And the whole thing he keeps repeating, like Tad, who was still dead, like under the sheet, like he says, he's still dead a couple times. And it's just really worked on me.
I take him away. And it's just like,
And there's a point where Cujo is attacking Donna in that like final fight or whatever. And Tad wakes up and I feel like his mind sort of breaks because he sees the monster from his closet, like going after his mom. And like that, even then I was like, oh my God, like this kid's never going to be the same. If he does survive this, that's a sanity destroying blow, seeing that.
she even mentions that really early on. He's like, oh my God, he's going to be affected by this for years to come. She actually says that in the book, or you hear her interior monologue.
I don't know. He could have been a cool kid.
Well, it's funny though because like
that dog, who cares? We
it
live.
does make you think about all of that stuff just in terms of like age and like because I don't really have any concrete memories before I was maybe 5 or 6.
Yeah.
Like I can't really. I remember like images, but not like real concrete memories. But going through something like that, does that jog your mind into some kind of state of, like I'm not saying, hey, do whatever you want because your kids aren't going to remember it until they're 5 or 6, because seriously, because they do, and somewhere in your brain, that's those images, those experiences are stored, and they do affect how you continue to grow. So whether or not he remembers Cujo growing up, he would have still been totally scarred.
Well, I think there's
by that.
2 outcomes with that. Likely outcomes would be either one, like extreme repression, where you're just totally avoiding that, but it affects you. Ultimately, will really affect you, or you're just haunted by it the rest of your life, and you can't get it out of your mind. I don't think there's like a good outcome from being stuck in a car for a couple of days, being attacked by a huge Saint Bernard.
His death is still really slow and torturous. And,
It's so slow and torturous where you're convinced that he's going to make it through. There's no way we're going to keep going down here. But no, that little boy dies at the end of this book. And a lot of times, especially with something like, what is it? And sometimes they come back where I feel it's too grim. Oh, yeah. Well, sometimes they come back. The ending of Sometimes They Come Back, I feel it's a little too grim. This is obviously
like
very
demon,
grim, but it fits in with the overall narrative. I didn't feel like he was like just trying to really be like, oh, now this is really fucked up, isn't it? I felt like it matched up with what I've been reading the entire time, and the theme of the inevitability and the thing that things happen, really bad things happen all the time. Those are the Trentons. Now we have to talk about the other side of the coin, or
we didn't really talk about Vic.
Well, we're going to talk about Vic and
a
Roger
little
too,
bit,
I
yeah.
guess. But
Well, I guess in your eyes, they're not a Trenton then. So
who are you talking about? Oh, Vic.
Vic.
Well, Vic. We'll talk about Vic and Raj then, because they're a tag team in this. They're together
Yeah.
most of the book.
yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but let's just go. We'll talk about Vic and Raj. Go ahead.
I thought Vic was pretty cool.
well, he is an advertising genius.
Yeah,
AdWorks.
Definitely see John Hamm as Vic.
Oh, no question about it. Absolutely, he's got some great ideas.
I'm a huge fan of the old school New York in the late 70s and the early 80s. So I like seeing 2 guys just kind of hit the town together. No, I'm just joking. I really was enjoying the fact that you just saw 2 friends that knew how to share a pastrami sandwich, and this really meant a lot
friends
to
are
me.
comfortable enough to eat like watching a baseball game in their underwear together.
Yeah.
Are we supposed to see Vic and Roger as like the more well-centered and they kind of make a go of it on their own, right? They're like, we're not going to be the big corporate guys.
Yeah.
We're going to be AdWorks, like just by ourselves. We're going to do right by everybody or whatever. And then you've got Joe and Gary, like just living these terrible, sad lives.
I didn't even think about that.
That's a good
Wanting
little
to
mirror.
go to Boston and like, I don't know, bang some prostitutes or whatever they're going to do in Boston.
Maybe catch a game.
Yeah.
Go hunting,
Interesting.
quote unquote.
There really are parallels to everything in this. Then,
Yeah.
because
The flip side.
you have Brett and Tad. And like Tad wins over Brett. God, I hate him. Can't stand Brett. But yeah,
He's
and
okay
then
now. He grew up to be fine. I'm
Donna,
convinced. he's fine.
Charity, Roger, and man, I didn't even think about that. That's
Oh yeah,
crazy.
There's layers to this shit, as somebody once said.
And then Cujo and Steve.
Actually, they're both rabbit.
Oh, wow,
They're both
that is
rabbit,
true,
though. That's a
actually,
really
yeah.
good point. But
Who do you
yeah,
think,
so
who do you
the
think
whole-
would win in a fight, Steve. or Cujo?
Cujo.
Yeah.
Is this the Cujo we all know and love that owns the house?
That's a good point.
Owns the house on King
Okay, I'll
Street?
put it this way. I think Kemp would sadly kill normal Cuj, but Rabid Cooge would take care of Steve Kemp, no questions asked.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because then like Kemp would do that stupid like, all right, now I'm going to do my final order, and he would just start masturbating.
Yeah, and that's when that's when Cujo would attack.
He would be
Like Cujo's like,
he'd be being mauled by Cujo, and it would be like and he was rock hard.
Yeah, that's right.
unless he like his van has some spectral magic to him, and he can conjure up some cool.
And Steve
black
Kemp
magic.
has a cat, which is an opposite of a dog.
I guess
love
we
how
kind
you
of
were-
started talking about Kemp here.
Earlier you were like, yeah, there's just like no black and white in this book. Everyone has multitudes, and then we get to Steve fucking Kemp, who is just a piece of shit.
and
Who is the most monstrous of them all?
He is the most like bipolar character. Like, and he even says like when he comes out of that, I think after he wrecks the house, and then he like comes to and is like, oh my god, like
I really did it.
I probably should get out of here. It's like it's such a switch, that. It's,
And then he still goes
very
upstairs
clear.
and jerks off on the
Yeah,
on
I
the
know.
bed too.
It's very clear that he had a bipolar.
Yeah,
he was bipolar.
Someone who struggled with bipolarism.
You've ever done something like that?
No, but there is that sort of, it's not to get a little sexual here, but it is like an orgasm in the sense, like you have this anxiety and like rage that just builds up sometimes, and you're just like, it just like goes, and then you just unleash on just something, and just like whether you say something that you don't want to, like that you just unleash a bunch of like craziness that you just say like fuck this, this is shit, blah blah blah, like you just go nuts, or like there's been situations where I just like will like rip up a book or something like that, or just like you just get really angry, and then
like punching a wall thing.
But then afterwards you're just like, what the fuck did I do that for? And like you just like, and then you go in this whole remorse period, or you go on for a while there, and like it's like acute anxiety like disorders like you have, and like I think that's what he probably had. Like it's in that sense is that whole sort of like build up, and the fact that King actually ends it with him ejaculating, that felt very real to me. But it never, unlike all the other characters, I never really understood why he was so like beholden to this like thing, like why there was never an instance where I thought that Steve understood the situation. And,
is-
he's an asshole.
Really weird because he has this very limited understanding of himself, where he
Yeah.
knows like, I'm not gonna shake the person's hand if I lose in a tennis match, and he like knows that about himself. He's not proud of it, but he also doesn't have a problem with it.
Yeah.
Well, that's the difference between like somebody's bipolar who can be a very nice person, and then it kicks in and they become, like you said, like you just lose it. But I think the thing with Steve Kemp though is not only does he kind of lose it when he's bipolar, but he's an asshole to begin with.
Oh, sure, he's a
so
garden-grinding
it's just
jerk. His
that's the
remorse
thing.
stage is just like, oh, am I going to get caught?
Yes.
Like,
Well,
I need to.
And the whole thing is, with the whole Donna thing is, this is all because he got rejected.
Yeah.
He got emasculated. He was rejected. And he was told no. And he seems like the kind of guy they kind of talk about how he's always had kind of success in that regard. And
he's like a vagabond a little bit. Like, he just picks up and leaves and goes wherever. I mean, like his profession, he can do that anywhere. And then like when he does act out, he leaves, and then he ends up coming back eventually. But like also, this is also a time where, no one knew what bipolar was, and like it was probably super undiagnosed, and he didn't know. And people just thought he was an asshole for getting here.
Well, he was definitely an asshole to begin with, though.
Well, yeah, but like, he's probably living that his whole life. So like, how do you turn out when you don't know that you have a condition? I'm not trying to. I'm making excuses for him.
Well, there's
Max was the defense attorney for Steve Kemp during the home invasion trial back in 1983.
and I won.
No, I do love that he's a tennis instructor also, which, if you recall from Night Shift, The Ledge, there's another infidelity sort of situation going on there.
He's more of a hero.
And he is more of a hero, but he's also still a tennis instructor.
Who's having an affair.
Must have been a thing of the times. Like,
That's too. I'll save that for later.
Max
Wait,
got
what?
some more of a. I think Max got some King's
just a
Dominion,
King's
room
Dominion.
room 237 stuff for later on in this.
Yeah, there are a lot of echoes to some of the tropes that he wires into this.
Definitely.
Like for example, even when Brett is talking, or Charity's worried about Brett and Joe and how Brett's taking on more of Joe's things. There's the hunting trip. That like, oh, you probably go on a hunting trip with Joe and like learn awful things, like in Rage when King brings that up also.
That's right.
So it's interesting how he always kind of has echoes to it.
Well, that's right, because he doesn't specifically say the term toxic masculinity, but he says something masculinity as it being too much at times, and Charity wants Brett to definitely avoid that. Mac is crossing off names with a red marker right now. We talked about it.
Steve Kemp is also ostensibly hot, but all we get about him is that he has this disgusting beard.
Yeah,
he's going gray, isn't he? Too. Don't they talk about that a little bit? He's showing signs of going gray and it I think also puts him off a little bit too. But he's you know what I think? I think Steve Kemp's the real monster of this book.
Hot take.
You know, and I'll bring this up
We rate
now.
the
I
dissertation.
had this in Pound Cake, but I feel like because we're talking about Kemp and like his like, there's a page 40 of the Signet Books edition. Donna's talking and says it occurred to her suddenly that although she had seen his penis close up, had it in her mouth, she had never really seen what his face looked like. And I feel like he is a bit of a monster. He's like, you know, he's the other Cujo in this, and I like the fact that she's had a lot. I mean, intense physical contact with this person, still has no idea what he's capable of.
I think it was also just about Donna not having an emotional connection with him at all, and never did to begin with. There was no like, well, maybe I love this man.
It wasn't about
He's a
that.
poet. He's like got this weird sensitive farce going on. Like, what do his poems look like?
It's almost
what
like a
does
neckbeard.
Steve Kemp haiku look like?
Oh God,
We should.
Everyone write your Steve Kemp
Yeah.
that's very
villanelle.
Get your stanzas in order.
Constant listeners, I think that you heard that right there. You got to go write your.
I need a
some
Kempism
Kemp
immediately.
haikus.
He does write that great letter, which I'm sorry.
Really well. Oh, let's read the letter.
I was going to say
this is
for
the
Pound
most.
Cake,
This
but-
is like a second grade letter. You're like, oh yeah. Well, all right, yeah.
Hello, Vic. Nice wife you've got there. I enjoyed fucking the shit out of her. What's that mole just above her pubic hair look like to you? To me, it looks like a question mark. Do you have any questions?
Do you have any questions? What an asshole.
David S.
Really
Pumpkins.
poetic.
Great. Just maybe he was deliberately doing that because if it was well written, they'd be like, you know, that sounds a lot like that great writing from Steve Kemp. We should go check him out real quick.
Yeah.
Mac, did you have something you found there at the in Cuj?
No, I was just the page like when he does come out of it, and he's like, "Why did I do that? What was I thinking?" And he even walks outside, and like this kid on roller skates zips by and says hi, and he's like, "Hey," and just totally like nothing happened.
I kinda wish
back
he
to
punched the
normal.
kid.
It's just very weird.
Was he on a skateboard?
Yeah.
If he was on a skateboard.
No, it said roller skates.
All right, that's all right.
Sorry.
That's fine.
No, what if he like did like a Biff Tannen thing, or just like pushed him and then
Guess
just
what? What
like,
you
got
do
in
about
the
it?
car?
What you do about it? A fun fact: Mac and I have a great uncle whose name is Kemp.
Oh,
That's true.
Moving on.
is he
So-
is Sean Kemp?
Sean Kemp, yes, that's right. Of the
yeah.
Seattle Supersonics. My great uncle, Sean Kemp, who's maybe a little older than me.
Isn't that Young Frankenstein, Inspector Kemp?
I had
that's right. There you go.
third grade teacher, Mr. Kemp.
Oh, you know, there's a lot of Kemps out there.
I know.
Hopefully, not as bad as Steve Kemp.
If your name's
real
Kemp
jerk.
and you listen to the podcast, we'd love to hear what you think about Kemps around the world.
And what's been like being associated with Steve Kemp your entire life. The legendary character that is Steve
Yeah,
Kemp.
because everybody knows Steve Kemp from Cujo.
Absolutely. Anybody have anything else to say about the Trentons? I mean, we're going to inevitably talk about them a little bit more later on. Or should we move on to the Camber storyline?
Move on to the old Cambers.
Let's do it. Let's talk about the Joe, Charity, and Brett triumvirate.
I said Camber.
Oh, is it Camber?
I think it's Camber.
Camber.
Yeah.
Camber?
Joe is great.
Stephen, if you're listening, I know you maybe don't remember how you were pronouncing when you were writing it.
This
Please let us
is
know.
really important.
Yeah.
No, I mean, well, where do you want to start with the Cambers?
Let's. I think we got to talk about Charity, the character. I think
Yeah.
for me, at the end of the book, Charity is as close to a victor as you're going to get. Despite everything that happened in that book, she kind of comes out the best.
But she's a victor by circumstance only. I feel like she's
Yeah.
so jaded. It's so depressing to me. I just have, from page 75 is like sums up her whole life. The meaning of her life is to protect Brett, right? And she
Yeah.
says she supposed that sooner or later Brett would go with them, and that would be the end of him for her, with them in terms of the camping trip. He would join their club, and ever after she would be little more than a kitchen drudge that kept the clubhouse neat. Yes, that day would come, and she knew it, and she grieved for it, but at least she had been able to stave it off for another year. That's
Yeah,
so
I know it's sad.
sad.
But I agree with you. That's why I said she's the victim. She's not. She's the victor to a certain extent because the only reason that Brett maybe has a chance is because Cujo went crazy and got rabies and killed Joe. But I think if everybody at the end of the day, she has the happiest ending because they're no longer having to worry about Joe.
Yeah.
But that says this is a pretty bleak book, obviously. So you're like stretching for victors in this thing, of survivors, of true survivors. But anybody else about Charity?
She just has that moment where she's talking about that Dylan Thomas poem when she says something about moving through dooms of love. What else did you call that heavy duty invisible rubber band if not love? And I feel like Cujo's the one that breaks that band.
Yeah.
I would say what's interesting about the Camber family is that they all, with the exception of Joe, are pretty aware that this is a miserable sort of kind of existence. And even Brett, regardless of the fact that he is really worried about, Cujo and then like kind of takes a liking to his dad, he's aware that there are like ills that are in this family. I mean, like there's this section on page 171, they're about to leave at the bus station. I think it was at the bus station that Joe drops him off, and Joe makes that weird sick ass like comment. It's like, I guess I just have to chase you down and drag you back with my new chain fall or whatever, which is like really like, yeah,
great joke, Dad.
But then Brett has this interesting thing where, the two of them embrace, and Joe's like, you're getting pretty damn big. Probably you ain't got a kiss to give your old man. And Brett says, I guess I do, Daddy. And it says, Brett said, he hugged his father tight and kissed his stubbly cheek, smelling sour sweat and phantom of last night's vodka. He was surprised and overwhelmed by his love for his father, a feeling that sometimes still came, always when it was least expected, but less and less often over the last 2 or 3 years, something his mother did not know and would not have believed if told. I'm sure she would have loved to have heard about that, actually. Instead, you had to give him her goddamn guilt trip all the time, Brett. It was a love that had nothing to do with Joe Camber's day-to-day behavior toward him or his mother. It was a brute biological thing that he would never be free of, a phenomenon with many illusory references of sort which haunt him for a lifetime. The smell of cigarette smoke, the look of a double-edged razor reflected in a mirror, pants hung over a chair, certain cursed words. I mean, that for me was a great passage because I feel like that summarizes why we cope with certain elements in broken families. Yeah. And it's this intrinsic, inherent feeling that you're supposed to love this person and that they are your paternal. And I
wonder how much of that had to do with King and his own relationship with his father, who he didn't really know.
Yeah.
And the whole thing about you're tied to that person, like no matter what, in a way, no matter how you truly feel deep down. It's just the biological nature of it all. And the thing with Joe also, he's no Steve Kemp. I mean, look, he's a bad dad. It sounds like he's pretty abusive, as well.
Yeah.
But they even say, like, he wouldn't necessarily admit it, but he loves Cujo, and he obviously does, in his own way, love his son. And who knows how he ever felt about Charity. But there's a human element to Joe. Not that he's necessarily a good guy, but that he's a real person, in this book at least. That's for me.
I don't get why he doesn't charge people very good prices for his mechanic service.
I think that's
he seems like such an asshole, but he's like, yeah, I'll do it for like $5.
I think it's like a folksy thing too. Because they talk about that, like, I'll do this for you if you take care of this for me or like if you give me a discount at the grocery store or that type of thing later on. That's like a little Castle Rock way of life,
Yeah.
But anyway, long story short. I mean, I really did like. And as somebody who saw the movie first, I was not expecting the big Camber, Gamber, whatever the hell you want.
Yeah, because they never go back to him, really.
They don't.
Which is
in
weird.
The movie, it's presented as just a horror movie essentially.
Yes, but I was actually surprised revisiting, not to get into the adaptation or anything, but I was really surprised that they even brought up the whole thing with, dropping the kids off. I mean, I get that you have to set it up that they leave, but they start digging into some of those themes that are in this book,
and it's just a Pinto.
Then it's just gone. Which is reading this book and knowing that the film was there. I didn't even remember them actually being in the film. I was surprised to see this story in the book and how long they lingered with it. I mean, Mac, we talked about this like a few weeks ago. Why do they keep going back and forth to this thing? And at the end, I did have that, and I was complaining a lot of the times reading it, just being like, oh my God, why do we keep going back to this? But at the end, it does drive it home. And then all the themes actually kind of tie together with that.
Because we briefly talked about a week or two ago, but you weren't done reading it. So I was like, just keep reading it. Because I swear it'll pay off a little bit for you,
Yeah.
So
I mean, it does have a payoff. I wish they could have found different sections to
insert the action.
Well, I don't know how many times I needed to hear about Charity getting upset about Brett talking about the credit card thing. There's nothing else to talk about.
Quite a few times.
There's so many different times that she would keep meditating on that. I'm like,
I guess it's their fear of It's too. I think, admittedly, I love all the side stories ultimately, but I think you could have possibly chopped off 1 or 2 interludes with Roger and Vic, or 1 or 2 interludes with Charity and Brett. I get
and
that.
Brett, I didn't mind as much because I felt like they were directly, related to Cujo, and they were still checking in. And I thought, all right, maybe they're going to be the ones that alert the police, or you know what I mean? Like you were kind of that mind. But man, Vic and Raj, I think that there was one point where they went back and then they spent like pages talking about their strategy, about the goddamn ad. And at that point, I was like, we get it. We could check back in with them, but we don't need to sit here and go through like the actual meeting that they're having. To me, it was the town. It was the town hall meeting situation in the stand. I was like, we don't need to sit here for the whole meeting.
Whereas in the stand, I had an ad hoc issue. You guys sound like you've got an ad works issue.
Don't put me. I actually, as someone who would have loved to have been on Madison Avenue at that time, I definitely like the ad stuff.
I did
reason.
Honestly. I wasn't.
Because I was fascinated.
Somehow,
by it.
I was not that bored.
I
by
wasn't.
It. I don't know why, but because even reading, I was like, why am I complaining about meetings in the stand, but I don't care about the sharp meetings? With
I know. On paper, I
right
absolutely
with
should
it.
hate this, but for some reason, I was.
You know what I
interested
think it
by
is? They didn't spend 200 straight pages. They spent maybe 15 pages, maybe 15 pages at a time. That's probably even being generous. Probably like 5 or 6
because
pages.
there are no chapter breaks or anything like that.
Yeah.
I didn't. Whenever we got to those points, I was like, "Oh Christ! Like, how long are we going to be with these guys?"
there were.
And also, having watched the movie this last year, and because they're really not in it very
not
much.
As much. No, not
and
as much.
neither. And then obviously, Charity, and then they just disappear. I was just like, really, and because I was just like, well, if this wasn't important enough to put in the movie at all, like, why are we spending so much time with them?
Well, I don't think it was.
I
don't think it was necessarily important. I think it was just they had to cut things for a 90-minute horror movie in 1983.
Right, and I guess I was just because that story was so fresh in my mind, it was hard to get through those parts because I was just like, I just wanted to get through the book.
Yeah,
and I was like, I was so aware. It's kind of like when you watch any movie before you read the book. It's like it's almost hard to read the book because you're like, well, I know where this is going, so I don't have the drive to read this. Like I know everything that's going to happen, so it's like I have trouble doing that sometimes. So that's why while we're doing this, I'm not watching these movies until after I read the books.
Oh yeah,
or at least rewatching them or anything like that. But yeah,
I think it honestly boils down to my fascination with cereal. Like I'm not even joking. Like I love cereal so much, and I've always been look. And this actually ties in a lot with like the writing in general. Like this came out in the early '80s, 1981, I think it was, and so commercialism was really starting to boil at an all-time high, which is why you have like references to Star Wars, you have references to McDonald's, you have references to all this sort of like advertising that was weighing in on kids and just American life in general. And as someone who we all came out of the 80s, so like I remember being absolutely victim. Like I just was absolutely one of those kids that were totally a sucker for that shit. Like I would see commercials and be like, "Oh my gosh, Mom, let's go to the grocery store. I want to get that. That's
like
cool."
French Toast Crunch.
Yeah, French Toast Crunch. And then I know like it's also Chubbs Rothman, so I was just like, "Oh, I got to get this cereal. I want to get like everything." And so like reading this for some reason, I really do think that like kind of keyed into it. It was just, oh man, cool commercials, because the commercials are so important at that time. And so like there was a part of me that was fascinated with King's like just King wrestling with that sort of thing that was becoming prominent. And like I do think that it's interesting that Star Wars is mentioned so much in here, because I really do think like the impact of Star Wars changed the way kids in America grew up, because then all of a sudden there was this type of commercialism that was just rampant. It wasn't just like, I mean, I'm like even trying to figure out before Star Wars, like what kids were really obsessed and buying into other than
like
sports
Army
and
Men,
like Army Men or whatever. And
toy
like,
models and
it became like this sort of like fascination with this sort of branding that became a lifestyle almost. I mean, I think that at one point they say like something like Star Wars is gay t-shirt or no, Darth Vader is gay t-shirt. I think that was on in one section
That's
or
when
whatever.
somebody's wearing a T-shirt. They allude to that. Yeah.
But again, it all welds into this whole thing that's like commercialism exists and informs us. And for some reason, I feel like there was some weird, subtle commentary going on in this book about that.
Well, it was the whole "nope, nothing wrong here" thing.
Yeah,
that I really this reread I really took to, like, I was really focusing in on that, especially with all the advertising stuff.
And I think that's the and I don't mind that. I just think like how we were talking, this book's called Cujo. If it was called Castle Rock, sure, but it's called Cujo. So I just felt like whenever we left, especially at those moments, those crucial moments, like you said, like when she gets out of the car, and then all of a sudden we're back with Vic and Raj talking about like what are they going to do when they go into this meeting? Like I was just like, who gives a shit?
Well, that's why I asked earlier. Like, you think if it was called, I don't know what the alternate title
Yeah,
could
I
have
don't
been.
know.
It would have, it'd been a whole different.
Yeah, absolutely,
perspective
because
on
it
it.
really is kind of like a little bit like here's these two different here's all these people that live in Castle Rock and here's their lives, and Cujo's just one of those characters. I just felt like to just name it Cujo, it is a little bit misleading and a little weird.
I feel like the cell phone thing is actually relevant to this because I feel like us reading this, like I was constantly like, call her, you're not in contact with her. But the thinking of the time is he's like, well, I'm going to call her every other day. And even that's a little much. Like she'd get freaked out if I called her every day. Like we, in our minds, have this need to be in constant contact with the people that we care about.
Yeah.
And so it was like normal for him to be like, no, I have to go to this meeting and then I'll call her maybe before dinner. And it's just a totally different way of moving in the world.
But even
What's the whole aspect
just
of checking in is just so weird.
Because it
now,
only takes place over 2 days.
I think it's
Monday,
it's
Tuesday,
like an
and
afternoon,
then-
overnight, and then maybe one more overnight. And it's
But this
over.
is also something that's almost completely forgotten. Long distance calling.
Yeah.
Like it was a situation where like, okay, well, I'm sure it was probably like expensive to call from
hotel.
New York.
Somebody's
whatever
working in
it
a
was,
hotel,
you know what I mean?
especially.
Like,
Those things were expensive.
So they're like, we've got to plan these calls, and it's just totally different mentality. And if you can't put yourself in that mentality, like when you read these books,
And they just had the conversation where she admits to cheating on him. Like we would be texting the entire time
Where are you?
during the meeting. How are you feeling? What's going on?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Take
that's
a picture
actually
of where
really
you
good
are
point.
and send it to me immediately with a timestamp on it. But yeah, so again, that goes back to the whole: could this book have possibly come out today? Unless you have a literal, like I said, I made a little joke earlier about the dead zone. But unless she was in an area where she was not receiving calls, most of this book could not happen
No.
today. But I feel like if they did remake it, they'd absolutely say it today. They would.
You think they'd said it today?
As foolishly they would say it today. I do think they would.
I don't know. I mean,
You've got to set in the 80s. You got to.
it has to be set in like the early 80s and the late 70s.
Or just before fucking cell phones.
I don't know.
Just before cell phones.
But
well,
if-
you know what? You can easily set it today and just be like, Donna's cell phone didn't work before,
Or a battery
Vic
died.
left.
That's possible too. You can do the
Before
whole battery
Vic
dies
left,
thing.
so Vic would never think to call her cell phone, thinking it was just the cell phone wasn't working. And then you're out there in the middle of the farm or whatever, you have no reception. So
Well, that's what I was
you know
saying.
what I mean? Like, yeah.
But the rest
Yeah,
of
but
the
then you got
stuff
all those
going on.
You got all those drones wandering around. They'll catch Cujo and
Was a
the
Cujo
drones.
was his man's best
found
friend.
Yeah,
know.
the shop's been surveying the countryside.
I don't want to stray too much off of this, but because I want to get back to just one more Zero and villain. We got to get a shout out to Gary. I mean, this guy
This guy
was
went through
just
the war?
He was just enjoying his screwdriver. And in the way that King describes his sloppy, it's pouring more orange juice and slapping on some vodka and like it was disgusting. I just I just imagine like dirty fingers like holding these like this mug that's never been cleaned.
They do a really
His-
good job
his
of capturing
house
that.
is like a swamp.
Yeah.
Gross. He's the kind of guy that just gave up carrying like 35 years earlier.
I could not get over the fact that it was like screwdrivers that he was making too, and not like like 6-packs or like beers. I was just like, there's something about the idea that he had like orange juice which has to be refrigerated for the most part, and I just can't even imagine him
Because
doing
it's easier
that.
to think about like
And,
just popping open a can. That's
Yeah.
supposed to like go in the fridge, unscrewing it, or like doing the orange juice,
like
pouring it in,
methodically doing this.
doing the vodka, and then
So yeah, that stuck with me, and I actually thought his death was very interesting because he kind of opened up the world for us a little bit too, because we see this outsider's perspective on Cujo as well, and like the fact that this was this family dog that was always friendly.
he liked the dog too.
And he liked the dog, and the dog was wandering around, probably checking up on him.
Yeah.
And I knew a lot of like actually outdoor dogs. Growing up in South Florida, there were a lot of dogs that would just be kind of wandering around outdoors, and we would always be, oh, look at this dog, and that's kind of cute. And that act, like I feel like his death was probably the most terrifying for me.
As well as you didn't know what to expect, also.
Yeah.
And how vicious it was going to
Because
be.
it's the first one.
Yeah.
So, I thought I just thought his character was was kind of fun. I just he's like the total like
Just
archetype,
gross.
like
King revisits these characters
low
throughout
life
his novels.
Yeah, he
It's
just
like
loves
the gross and
I just love how like far King can go with like making him like a schlub.
Oh, we always see
Oh,
that
yeah.
these characters use the bathroom.
Yes.
He talks
Oh,
about
yeah.
how he urinates. And it's like, oh,
well, we'll talk about
lately
George
it had
Mira
been a
later
little,
too. But George Mira has got some flatulence issues. We'll talk about later
Yeah.
on in the program. So keep an ear out, folks.
But just in the whole introduction of George, he just keeps saying things like, and George didn't give a shit. He keeps repeating that over and over again. Like, George is just this guy who just doesn't give
Are you talking
a
about
shit.
the mailman, George?
Are you talking about Gary?
You're talking about Gary.
Oh, I'm sorry, Gary.
Gary,
yeah,
Gary.
Yeah, Gary doesn't give a shit so much that's why he dies.
That's very true.
Because he doesn't even close the door. If he would have closed the door, none of this would happen.
That's true. Hey, folks, if you're out there, listen, close your doors. Just close them. Lock up. It's an unsafe world out there.
I mean,
Cujo be wandering
let's be
around.
honest. If this dog's running after you, you get inside the house, you're not going to close the door.
Well, I guess he just it was a screen door, right? But the dog
Yeah.
can easily break through it. But no, I agree with you. I'm like, just close the door.
Yeah.
And the book's a novella, and it's over.
Yeah. Well,
Well, I mean,
I think
love Gary.
Gary, what a wonderful person. He lived his full life. We need to talk about our boy George Bannerman and his importance, not only in this story, but in terms of what King would do throughout the rest of what King has continued to do throughout the rest of his career. George Bannerman, this is the first instance of a returning character to a King book. And he had been publishing for about 6-7 years at this point.
well,
So,
is this also the first time this is the next Castle Rock book.
yeah, this is the first time we're returning
So it's a
to
return
a
to
pre-existing
a town as
location.
well,
yeah.
yeah.
And it's the first returning.
Like a fictional town.
And
fictional
Castle
town.
Like
Rock's
Bangor has
also,
been in a bunch.
yeah, Castle Rock's also a character that
It's like a character of its own, Castle Rock. But so the thing with Bannerman, unfortunately, I'd seen the movie beforehand, so I kind of knew what was going to happen at the very end.
Is that Bannerman in the movie though?
Yeah, it's Bannerman on his
Oh, it
badge.
does it?
Yeah,
Okay, okay.
But he's not.
They
Tom
don't
Skerritt
mention.
didn't
Nobody
return.
ever. Yeah, I wish they did.
Man, God, if Tom Skerritt had come back.
But it would have been a bigger role for him,
Yeah.
obviously, in the movie.
Yeah.
He wouldn't have died.
Instead of just dog food. So yeah, you're reading Bannerman. There's a couple points in this where you're just like, oh, Bannerman. I remember Bannerman. He was the guy that's kind of saved everybody, well, essentially led Johnny to saving the day in the dead zone. He's going to be the one that is going to show up at this garage and kill Cujo and save them. It's going to be him. I mean, there's even the part where they set it up where, what's his name? Mason, that obnoxious,
Yeah, the
hotshot detective or FBI, whatever. He goes,
Who's in the movie? Played by
our good friend
Throat.
Deep Throat from X-Files, yeah. He sarcastically asks Bannerman if he can handle checking out the camera place, and Bannerman responds, "It's my town." And he leaves. You're like, oh yeah, you're goddamn right, Bannerman. You show him up. You show him how much of a town it's your town. You've lived there. You're the one that saves the day, and then dead. Just dies. Just gets killed by Cujo. It's just brutal. Mauled to death, and then just you hear him and see him eating later on.
His death is the way it's written is just amazing. It's amazing.
It's the moments before dying part.
Yeah.
And it's in italics. This is what he's thinking. He says, should have called in first. That's procedure. You never argue with procedure. But if I believed that, I never would have called Smith in the Dodd case.
Love that he mentioned
Vicky,
Smith.
Katrina, I'm sorry. And then it's just, he loses it.
I love that he references Smith and just the knowledge, because like Johnny Smith is one of my favorite characters in all the Stephen King books, and the fact that like you get that like hint, like, oh God, remember that hero. I did start wondering like Smith is dead at this point.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Smith's dead.
Like this doesn't take place before the ending of.
No, this is years after.
Okay,
This is years
okay.
after. And the thing also is, because Smith doesn't live.
They say it's 4 years later, I think.
Yeah, in the beginning of the book.
Yeah.
Like Johnny Smith, for instance, he didn't live in Castle Rock. He was just visiting there to try to solve this case. But if anybody was going to be made a hero of the case, the town hero would have been Bannerman after that.
Oh, totally.
And so he's like the silver lining of all that. Like, okay, we've got a good sheriff in town. He's going to protect us. This Dodd thing will never happen again. And then once again, to be unceremoniously mauled to death by a rabid
He's
Saint Bernard
holding his intestines as he's
trying to crawl
get
back to the car. It's just, once again, it's just grim. It's just
doubly grim
horrifying.
because like we know him from before, and
Yeah.
Johnny Smith helped out, and he got the supernatural on his side, and this time no.
We figure like, okay, it's either going to be Mason, the way we're like in King novels, like Mason or Vic's going to show up at the last second, or Bannerman's going to save the day. But no, it's going to be Donna this entire time.
Well, he also drives home the point. I mean, Bannerman's death drives home the idea that it is Frank Dodd.
See, I think that's just once again a case of like not being able to let go of this evil that came from
Yeah,
a
I do
small
too.
town.
But it is. There,
He looks them in the eyes and says, "I think I got that too."
He's like, for some reason, I thought of the spirit of Frank Dodd, or like his eyes staring at me in this. I just,
yeah.
I
still think it's Frank Dodd, though.
You think it's Frank Dodd?
I don't think it's Frank
Oh,
Dodd.
you don't think? Okay.
No, I really don't. I still think that's just a case of the.
It's like urban legend.
The urban legend thing.
Yeah,
I think.
I like that also. I like
that.
that read better.
But I
Yeah.
like that it's created this strange folklore in the town, and that
Exactly.
people are always going to contribute that. And I was wondering, and I haven't read Needful Things, but that takes place in Castle Rock as
does.
well. Did they mention Frank Dodd?
Absolutely.
In that? See,
And the thing
I
is,
like
and
that.
this book starts off with the whole "Once Upon a Time."
Yeah.
There was a man named Frank Dodd. And it's just the idea that these things, you can't escape these things, especially if you've never experienced them before.
Well, I like the idea that it was Frank Dodd also, because he's my second favorite character in The King. And I'm just joking. No, he's awful. He's disgusting.
There's the lead scene where he's trying to get Cujo off of him, but all of a sudden Cujo is draped with a black raincoat and he can't get a handle on him.
I don't know if you remember this, but there was like an actual like cut chapter from Cujo in which you see like this like character in a rain jacket that's stumbling down a really dark hallway, and this actor comes around the corner and is just like, "We'll send you back. If you can kill as many people as you can as a Saint Bernard, you can have your life
I like
again."
how it's an actor.
Yeah.
This actor comes back.
Well, I was thinking, I don't know if
like
you've...
Sam Beckett leaped into
No,
Cujo.
no, it's more like that 1991 film with Ellen Barkin, Switch, in which
Blake Edwards movie.
in which the character is sent back to Earth after he's died as a horrible human being, and
He's a
has to-
misogynist. Is in
is
the
a
body of Ellen
misogynist, and he
Barkin.
has to be in the body of Ellen Barkin. He has to prove that someone loves him.
And Jimmy Smith loves
Jimmy
him.
Smith loves him. But I would love to see if like Frank Dodd actually got sent back as Cujo.
Well, you know what? Cujo 2, Job's War. We're going to see it.
Yeah. Destroy
So
this.
there's a lot of, I think there's a lot of strong characters in this that all serve a pretty good point. Again, Frank Dodd is the one thing that connects all of them in a way, because everybody knows who Frank Dodd is in that town. And this is the beginning of, once again, King, as time goes on, will continue to return to pre-existing characters and pre-existing towns. And this is a good example of that to start things off. We've talked about the characters, but where do you guys think that Joe Camber, Gary, and Bannerman end up?
I think they end up in
Is
the
it
cemetery.
That's right, Mel. Underground. But where underground? What location?
Like a grave. I'm waiting for you to say it. I'm alley-ooping you here.
Mel,
One grave in a mass
Wait,
grave.
hold on. Mel, you said a grave.
Yeah.
Like in a cemetery?
What's the bottom of the truth?
Well, sometimes that is better. The person you put up there ain't the person that comes back. It may look like that person, but it ain't that person. Because whatever lives in the ground beyond that cemetery ain't human at all.
Well, as we well established, we are now in the cemetery. Flawless. Who wants to kick things off with some spooky parts of Cujo?
I will. Page 4 of the Signet Book edition. It says, "The monster never dies. Came to Castle Rock again in the summer of 1980. There's a lot of cemetery stuff, for me at least. There's a lot of spooky stuff. And I was surprised that, I mean, the bulk of my notes are all scary things.
Well, we'll go around. We'll each
But,
give an instance, and then if we don't, so we don't double up or anything.
Yeah. I've got here, okay, so on page 57, Aunt Evie Chalmers has a premonition. It's just, and somewhere she heard a child crying, and for a moment it seemed that the cries were joyful, but as she went out, suddenly propelled as if by a hard but not unkind push from behind, it seemed to her that the child was screaming in fear, in agony. Then she was gone, and she's referencing Tad. Tad, I think,
Was that the Chalmers? I mean,
nearby.
not the Chalmers. I'm sorry, the Cambers.
Yeah, and I just thought that was really that was a really vague but creepy kind of premonition and of obviously of foreshadowing.
Yeah, I like that. Mike, did you have something?
Yeah, I really, I've been sitting here dogging, no pun intended, this monster narrative with the closet. But
Well, give us something to chew on.
thanks. I really did like when Donna uses the closet to her. It's like her own portal to her own just like inner demons. On page 92 to 93. It's
And
just
this is the awful edition that we have, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's just some eerie stuff. I mean, it's a long narrative. Just go read it.
It's great. Go read it.
No, but there's just some the way that she kind of looks into the closet is very scary, and it kind of gives some sort of backstory to herself and also the closet in general, of just what that means to us over the years, and how that the fear of the closet as a kid, and how that kind of transmutes to some other things.
Piggyback off that. I think it's like page 91 in my edition. She scares herself thinking that of like the ghost of, like I mentioned this earlier, the ghost of Joan Brady will come out of the closet, and it's just like everyone has a boogeyman, and it's creepy to think that even these full-grown adults still have these fears, these totally unfounded fears that something else might be in the closet.
That's cool. Mel, you have something?
Well, I don't want to steal Mike's thunder because I think he was talking about the scene where Cujo gets Gary is really scary. So if you want to do that,
go for it. No, go for it.
A lot of mine in the cemetery are based in body horror because I think, getting mauled by a rabid dog is both disgusting and terrifying. So on 177, we've got, as he reached the first splintery step of his porch, 200 pounds of St. Bernard hit him like a locomotive, knocking him flat and driving the wind from him. The dog went for the back of his neck. Gary tried to scramble up. The dog was over him, the thick fur of its underbelly nearly suffocating him, and it knocked him back down easily. Gary screamed. Cujo bit him high on the shoulder, his powerful jaws closing and crunching through the bare skin, pulling tendons like wires. Yeah, and then when he gets his throat out. That's also gross.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that goes back to the whole. I think that's why I was so affected by, for instance, Tad dying at the end, because it was such a realistic way of dying, as opposed to a vampire biting you and taking you over. Same with Gary. This isn't the same as, again, a vampire coming on killing you, or a supernatural hotel murdering you.
Yeah.
This is just a rabid dog devouring you and eating your throat out.
And there's a couple of instances where people are like very aware of what's happening to them, and Gary even says like, "Dear God, that's mine," in response to like his own blood, seeing and feeling his own blood. It's just
I've
awful.
got something here, another Cujo attack that I think as a man has affected me a little bit. I'll say it. It's a good little stinger at the end of a part here. He goes, Joe says, he remembered Gary. He covered his throat with one hand and tried to grapple with Cujo with the other. Cujo backed off momentarily, snapping, his muzzle wrinkled back in a great humorless grin that showed teeth like a row of slightly yellowed fence spikes. Then he came again, and this time he came for Joe Camber's balls. And I just remember not enjoying that passage of the novel.
Ooh. I just remember...
I didn't reread it, put it that way.
Sick Balls.
Sick Balls?
Yeah, do you remember where that's from?
No.
Stand By Me.
Oh, that's based on
one of the
a
dogs.
Stephen King short story.
It is based on a Stephen King
novella. Did you know that, Mike?
Yeah.
Mac, do you have another passage?
Page, and we've talked about Dodd quite a bit, but page 58, where basically Dodd becomes the boogeyman through like a garbled account that Ted has of the Castle Rock murders, like Tad overheard at some point something about the Castle Rock murders, and like he like has this pretty concrete image of Dodd in the rain slicker, like standing in the closet, and sometimes that'll like shift to this thing he calls like the Beast, which is obviously like probably Cujo, with the red eyes in the closet. And I think there's a dream he has about Dodd. I think it's page 139.
Well, I think that's the baseball bat dream, and it transforms into the Dodd image. Yeah, it's creepy.
Yeah, it does, and that is it's super creepy.
Mike, did you have another passage you want to read?
Yeah, I liked when we had mentioned, we kind of hinted at it earlier, but when Cujo's staring at Donna, and it's almost like reminds me of like Michael Myers. It's on page 239. And a moment later, Cujo's foam-covered twisted face popped up outside her window, only inches away, like a horror movie monster that has decided to give the audience the ultimate thrill by coming right out of the screen, which you had mentioned before. Yeah. And we had been discussing about how this is like almost like a self-aware horror movie. She could see his huge, heavy teeth. And again, there was that swooning, terrible feeling that the dog was looking at her, not at a woman who just happened to be trapped in her car with a little boy, but at Donna Trenton, as if he had just been hanging around waiting for her to show up. This is like kind of eerie. Just this idea that like you get into her own like mindset, just her own fears of just how she's actually taking on all her just biggest, greatest fears and putting him on this dog and making the dog even more terrifying for me. And it just, that's just the idea of this dog just continuing to stare like Michael Myers.
You figure
like,
it's going to die. It's just not going to die.
It's not going to die.
It's like the boogeyman. You can't kill the boogeyman, you know?
Yeah.
Mel, do you have another?
Oh, yeah. I have always been scared, not of sleepwalking, but of sleepwalkers. And if I ever encountered a sleepwalker, I would scream and wake them up and do everything in my power to stop them from sleepwalking because it's so creepy. And so when Charity is watching Brett on page 291, his face went through a slow-motion pantomime of sorrow. He spoke then, muttering the words as sleepers so often do, gutturally, rapidly, almost unintelligibly, and with no emotion in the words themselves. That was all inside, held in the cocoon of whatever dream had been vivid enough to make him nightwalk again after 2 quiet years. There was nothing inherently melodramatic about the words, spoken all of a rush in a quick sleeping sigh, but Charity's hand went to her throat anyway. The flesh there was cold, cold. Cujo's not hungry no more, Brett said, the words riding out on that sigh. He stood up again, now holding the gravy boat cradled to his chest. Not no more, not no more.
I want to piggyback off that because I wrote that down too. That incident's creepy as hell. And my best friend sleepwalks a lot. When we were living together in college, I remember I woke up like 3 o'clock in the morning and went to the bathroom, and we had this long hallway between our rooms.
No.
And he was standing in the hallway just staring at the wall. And I remember asking, he scared the hell out of me. And I guess, you don't expect anybody to just be standing there in the hallway randomly. And I remember his girlfriend at the time came out at the same time because she realized what was going on and kind of ushered him back into his room. And it was really creepy. And there's a lot of incidents like that. And he likes to deny it doesn't happen, but it's true, Chris. You're a sleepwalker.
He's like takes actual actions, and that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, this thing with Brett is totally believable because this mirrored some of the.
But I love the fact that it's super Cujo centric too, and the thing that he's not hungry anymore because he's not. He's getting his fill of these people.
Let's see here. Oh, here's a bit of a sadder part that just kind of terrified me more than horrified me or anything. This is Tad near the end of his time, I believe. It says, I think you alluded to this earlier, Mel. Tad woke up. He saw his mother being driven back toward the Pinto's center console. There was something in his mother's lap, something terrible, hairy thing with red eyes, and he knew what it was. Oh, yes, it was the thing from his closet. The thing that had promised to come a little closer and a little closer until it finally arrived right by your bed, Tad. And yes, here it was, all right. Here it was. The monster words had failed. The monster was here now and was murdering his mommy. He began to scream. His hands clapped over his eyes. And it's just hard to read that. Like this, as a 4-year-old, you should still believe that these words can protect you. It's the whole loss of innocence thing that we talked about with Tad earlier. Really comes into play here. That made me that bothered me a little bit reading that.
Yeah. This is a totally different. It's not a Cujo centric thing, but there's a moment, and as every man can attest to this, there's a moment where Steve Kemp almost zips up his penis. And I just thought that was absolutely terrifying. I was like, it said he almost zipped the head of his penis, and all I could think of was something about Mary.
Yeah,
but I thought, oh god, that is just like the most horrifying thing I could think of.
And he wouldn't even realize it because he's so fucking crazy too. Mike, you have another one you want to read?
Yeah, it goes into. This one was more of the way that King is able to weave in like short stories and just like other narratives, and that's one of my favorite things about him as a writer. Something that he really did start doing with like Salem's Lot, and where you can kind of go off in these tangents that also expand the world. I love like right when Cujo starts first appearing with Gary, he goes on that little tangent where Gary starts talking about the other rabid dog that he had seen at like the gas station like years ago to kind of set the tone or the rules for what rabid dogs might do. I thought that was really eerie. This thing just kind of like wandering into like a gas station, how they had to like shoot it and just little side stories like that are great. There's another,
they shoot it first, but they just blow off his back leg or something like that. It's still alive. Oh, gross. Yeah, it's terrifying.
It just kind of sets the tone for that and for just the whole rabidity. I don't know if that's a word.
Sure.
But
that's going to be a t-shirt.
Yeah. But that's also why it seems a little supernatural to me. Because rabid dogs, they just wander around. They're not they're not lying in wait for you.
No.
Yeah. They just wander around and foam. And
oh, sorry, Mel. You want one?
I don't know. We already talked about Bannerman. I won't do him, even though getting disemboweled is gross and I don't like hearing about it. When Cujo gets Donna's leg.
I was just looking at that.
Yeah. She slammed the door on Cujo's head again and again, her screams melting into Tad's, melting into a gray shock world as Cujo worked on her leg, turning it into something else, something that was red and muddy and churned up. The dog's head was plastered with thick, sticky blood as black as insect blood in the chancy starlight.
That's a good example of revulsion in King's 3 modes of the horror.
Oh, yeah.
I had that too, Mel. I just crossed it off thinking, oh, God, that's disgusting. Here's something that's just disturbing. And these are, when you look back, I looked back to make sure I was right, but these are actually Tad's last words in the book. Ugh. And he keeps having those fantasies to try to take himself out of the situation about the duck pond. So his last words are, "Ducks," he said gutturally. "Go see the ducks. Monster words, Daddy." That's the last words. Just gross.
Monster words, Daddy. Ugh.
Yeah, and then he dies later on, shortly thereafter. So
Gross.
Any other tombstones to hit upon over here?
I mean, I know these are directly my notes right here. I say, on page 471, King overdoes it with the explanation of the monster words metaphor and how it was no different than his own lies in advertising. Was this all just some sick, long-winded allegory against marketing and advertising? Oh, wait, no, this was before. Oh, no, this was page 449. He writes, Vic hearing voice from closet with the doors opening, and you hear Tad's voice, and the bear starts talking, and the closet latch breaking open. I wrote, all of this is pretty stupid, but it's eerie.
It's like if this was a different story, this would be really eerie because maybe this is happening.
Yeah, but I still was just like, whatever. But the idea of this kind of happening is still kind of creepy.
Like in the middle of the day, upstairs by yourself, sure.
And I felt the same thing, like when on page 292 of the Signet Books edition, where Donna kind of becomes Cujo, she says she bared her teeth and growled soundlessly at him, wouldn't let Vic near Tad after, and it was just kind of like this weird, like, are we going there? But then they obviously don't. But it's just obviously just in the throes of what's just happened. She's just kind of lost it.
This is a sequel to The Howling?
Felt like I did. I felt like it was very creepy to me, but I was also kind of like, this is a little silly.
The parallel of dead ends. Because again, it goes into the whole Independence Day thing of like dead ends and roads.
That was part of the big thing in the back. Yeah,
it is still, but like the concept of dead ends has always kind of creeped me out. Like the end of the street, you can't go anywhere. There's no escape of where regardless, unless you're the way you came in, is kind of eerie. For some reason, that was just a haunting image for me. Just like the idea that they are at the end of this road that nobody ever really goes down anyway. Yeah. It kind of feels hell. Tolkien
writes about it, and I think it's Lord of the Rings. He writes, roads go ever on, but he's a fucking liar.
Well, I also had another. Well, again, we talked about Bannerman and the intestines and stuff, and I was like, what? There's an instance with intestines, and I really wanted to bring it up, and I just remembered it's actually from Running Man. So you'll have to wait for the next.
Running Man will be the next.
Podcast.
Running Man will be the next book.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure if it's the next episode after Cujo, but it will be the next book. So definitely keep an eye out for that one.
The concept too of Donna not knowing if that door is open and if she could have saved everyone's life by just like running in there.
Yeah,
it's just some good tension.
Oh yeah, yeah. And again, she would have given it. She probably would have chanced it if it wasn't for Tad being in the car.
With the whole thing with Tad dying at the end anyways, it's like, had she taken that chance, maybe things might have been different too.
Well, that's what's kind of terrifying about the ending for me, is that it's just they sit on a bed of what ifs now.
Yeah, and everybody does.
Yeah, I mean everyone really does, and Vic talks about that at the very end, where it's just like, no, you couldn't have done this, you couldn't have done that. It doesn't matter what you have, but it doesn't matter how many times he reassures her. She's always going to ask those questions, and that was really the most like haunting thing at the end there, because what ifs are the what if question is probably the most haunting thing as a human, and to have like a litany of them with the death of your son attributed to it is just, well, there's your own personal hell for the rest of your life.
Well, I'll tell you what, Mike, that might be a really good segue. Does anybody else have anything else they want to add to the cemetery?
When she pulls Tad's tongue out like a window shade. Oh no!
And he keeps biting on her fingers down to the bone too. They mention that too. Well, let's leave the cemetery. Let's plug in our laptops, let it charge up, and head to the word processor of the god.
And we're gonna make a new rule. Whenever I'm in here, you hear me typing. whether you don't hear me typing, what the fuck you hear me doing in here. When I'm in here, that means that I am working. That means don't come in. Now, do you think you can handle that?
Yeah.
Fine.
Yeah, and I was going to mention. I only have a couple things. I was going to mention the monster words, but we kind of opened with that, and we've talked about that to death.
Thanks, Justin.
So yeah, thank you,
Hey,
Justin.
spoiler, ruining everything over here.
But there's just one little passage. It was page 59 of Signet, where it says they're talking about like Tad should just go to sleep, and Donna thinks that he's kind of coddling him with the monster words and stuff. And he said, Vic, basically from Vic's point of view, says Vic either saw more deeply or remembered more clearly about the closet door that turned into an unhinged idiot mouth in the dark of night, a place where strange things sometimes rustled, a place where hanging clothes sometimes turned into hanging men. And that reminds me also of like the dream that the body from Salem's Lot, the hanging body in the house.
The house, Hubie.
Yeah, and he says he remembered vaguely about the shadows the street light could throw on the wall and the endless 4 hours that follow the turn of the day, and the creaking sounds that might have been the house settling, or that might, just might, be something creeping up. And I just thought that was a very scary little passage.
I also underlined that one too.
You know what? That sounds pretty spooky, man. That should have been the cemetery.
It could have been.
That's
that
why
could have been
I was going to do that as a little intro to word processor, but I didn't want to jump in too early.
I think there's a little recurring motif here with mine. Also, I think one of the things I wrote about in the It review is that I think one of King's strongest suits are his characters and his sense of place, and that clearly speaks to his sense of place. And I think this does too. And this is on page 235 of the Pocketbooks edition. When it's talking about how it's probably basically just trying to stress how far away they are from everything. This is Donna. She heard birdsong and the harsher music of a crow somewhere in the long field which stretched down the flank of the hill they had just climbed. There was the sigh of a light breeze, and the oaks that lined the driveway made moving patterns of shadow around her feet. But she could not hear a single car engine, not even the faraway burp of a tractor or a baling machine. City ears and town ears are more closely attuned to man-made sounds. Those that nature makes tend to fall outside the tightly drawn net of selective perception. A total lack of such sounds made her uneasy. I'd hear him if he was working in the barn, Donna thought, but the only sounds that registered were her own crunching footfalls on the crushed gravel of the driveway and a low humming sound, barely audible, with no conscious thought at all. Her mind placed it as the hum of a power transformer on one of the poles back by the road. And it kind of reminds me of that passage that I always reference in The Shining, where when they leave and he just slowly
driving off,
almost kind of like doing like the Russian T-doll thing, where you just keep going from the bigger to the smaller, to the smaller, to the smaller, to the smaller, until you're finally where the main character is standing, and you have an absolute understanding of their whole situation, the feelings that they're having, and that tension, and especially the isolation, and like that just a gorgeous part for me. Yeah.
Mel, do you have any?
I like the bit right before Donna charges Cujo in the final confrontation, just the calm that comes over her. And this is actually after she hears the like Dixieland music coming faintly from the town, which also contributes to her sense of like, oh, I'm here, but I can hear that. Like it's close, but so far. This is 361 of the Pocketbooks. Her heart was a small, powerful machine flexing in her chest. Her blood was up. Her eyes seemed to move effortlessly and perfectly in their bed of moisture. Her kidneys were heavy, but not unpleasantly so. This was it. This was for keeps. The thought that it was her life she was putting on the line, her very own real life, had a heavy, silent fascination, like a great weight which has reached the outermost degree of its angle of repose. She swung the car door shut. Clunk.
I've got a couple things. I'll read this one real quick. It's actually from Charity. This is after she's visiting her sister. And it's the middle of the night. She says she lay hot-eyed and straight in bed. And just before Brett came in, his arrival announced by Cujo's barks. And I'm sorry, this is earlier on in the book. Let's do that again. She lay hot-eyed and straight in bed. And just before Brett came in, his arrival announced by Cujo's barks and the slam of the back door screen. The moon rose in all its silvery, detached glory. Moon doesn't care, Charity thought. But the thought brought her no comfort. So again, it's just, everything's going to keep going on. Things around you are going to happen. It doesn't, nothing truly matters. That's really grim. And okay, Mac, do you have anything else?
I don't. That was the only good part of writing in this book. No, I'm just kidding. No, I don't have anything else. We talked a lot about. They've kind of come up already. So.
Yeah, they have. Mike, did you have anything else?
I mean, I just thought the death of Bannerman is just brilliant writing right there, and just the way that he's able to kind of weave all those details in, and also do the whole Owl Creek Bridge sort of death. Makes it even that much more impacting. Where he
His
thinks
last
that
thoughts are
he's going to get away.
he's still puzzled as to how this could possibly happen.
Yeah, like he doesn't even know where the source of pain. I guess he knows where the source of pain is coming, but he's like, "What is he doing to me?" Is like what's kind of also terrifying. That whole thing is just really gets into the whole horror of what Cujo can do to a human being.
I actually had when he realized again, it's like he realizes what's going on. He says, "What's he done to me down there? Oh my God, what's he done, Vicky?" Like as if Vicky's there, and I don't know. It's just creepy.
You're calling out for your loved ones at that point too. Mel, do you have anything else?
No, I totally agree with everything that was said there, and just the abject of like something that's supposed to be inside is out. Like that's so terrible, but you don't know exactly what's going on. And then you reach down, you feel something that's not supposed to be there. It's gross.
Well, to put a button on this section of the episode, this goes back to what you were saying about Vic trying to console Donna. This is really, really well written here. It says. Vic thinks this, logic could not blunt her terrible sense of personal failure. Only time could do those things, and time would do an imperfect job. So it's, again, like time doesn't necessarily heal all wounds. You'll get past it, you can move on, but nothing's going to necessarily be the same. Nothing's going to necessarily have an happy outcome. Nothing necessarily has to get solved. And I thought that was a really nice piece of writing there by Cy King.
Well, kind of
Papa King.
There's an inference to that sense of time that it's almost like cyclical in a way. It's like, well, we put everything that we can on the table. How do we slowly put it back into the closet and try to move on from this, and try to not think about this and try to go on? I feel like that's kind of what's going to happen. You take these things, you look at the awful shit that's going on in life, and then you go, all right, well, we got to move on from this. Time to stow them away back in the closet. And I feel like
such a negative outlook on this ending.
I'm just so cynical about it.
No, but that's again the opening nature of it. It's good. You can have so many different interpretations of it.
Yeah, I just imagine that's what's going to happen, though. Yeah. I mean, that's just. I feel like that's. I don't know. I just feel like
it's funny because there's more concrete endings in King books later on, and then you learn about what happened to those characters in future books. And it's not what you think, in like a negative way. So what you're saying is a very good possibility.
Well, just think about it, though. They're both reminders of the kid that they lost. I mean, that's always going to be the case. It doesn't matter how far they get ahead of that. It's always going to be a reminder. And that's one of the reasons why you see in a lot of situations where marriages break up when they lose a kid, because it is such a reminder. You can't just have another kid and go from there. It's always going to be like, I know just even growing up, there were a lot of families I remember their kids were lost and the families just fell apart.
That's why I was so surprised that they actually do end up together. And Vic never once has any thought of blaming Donna. He never thinks like, well, you should have gone for the door, or well, why did you bring him in the car? As an imperfect human, I would have those thoughts.
Yeah.
I will say, and
it's probably
because they cut to the ending a little while after the main events of the book, so it's possible he did have those angry thoughts, and they're kind of now we're joining them near the end, picking it up.
Kind of wish Vic was a little bit like Marshall Bell on Stand By Me.
Should have been you, Donna. Should have been you.
No, I don't actually.
But
really
sorry, I just got a knock at the door. It's George Mary. He's got a really bad case of the farts. So let's go to the pound cake.
After all you've been taught, everyone in bad, Mama, everything in the sin.
Come to your closet and pray. Ask to be forgiven.
He's a nice boy, Mom. You like him. You really like him, Mama.
All right, so who wants to serve up the first slice? Mac.
Page 4. I think we talk about Tad's.
What happens on page 4 in the Signet edition?
I think we talk about Tad's scrotum crawling.
That's a way of King always doing that, because he did that with Dick Halloran.
Is it during a bad dream he's having? He mentions his scrotum crawling, and I just thought, he's 4 years old. It's just weird. It's just gross.
This is a thing I will never experience.
Well, yeah, it's just that's nothing weird about that. That's nothing weird about that.
No,
that's what happens when you get.
It was a little gross. We're talking about pound cake. It was just gross writing.
Anyway,
All right. Well, how about this? Gary Purvier on page 34. He said, sometimes he could still get a pretty respectable bone on.
That's funny.
Bone on?
Love that.
Well, because I think he's down to one testicle, right? Because of the war or
he's
something
down to
like
one
that?
testy, and Stephen King is still trying to make a point that sometimes Gary can still get it on.
All right, that's all right. I'm not as offended by that, though. All right, well, yeah, Mike.
Well, three pages later,
Page 7. No,
Gary goes, Cujo picked up the dog biscuit again and ate it. That's better, Gary said. Well, he ain't gonna kill you. Ain't gonna kill me either. But it bitches the shit out of my hemorrhoids. Well, I don't give a shit if they get as big as fucking golf balls. You know it. He swatted a mosquito.
swatted a mosquito.
Like just adding the mosquito in there just to be like, but like, it's just like, again, it goes to show you like how despicable, like this gross
Gary is.
like, oh, look, he's got hemorrhoids also. Like, it's just,
He's always
fucked.
like, you know it to a dog.
yeah.
like it's like also highlights just how lonely this guy is. He's like talking about his hemorrhoids to some dog, Saint Bernard. Okay,
Just
Mel.
like, sure.
Next serving, Mel.
Cujo just stares.
Yeah.
Shut up, Gary.
Yeah.
I don't know. This was a great. I just love how bad this successful ad is. He's talking about one of Vic's successful ads for a cookie guy who's a Western. He's like a sheriff that shoots guns that are full of cookies, which is already really bad. It says page 40. Well, the bad guys got away, he'd tell millions of Americans every day or so. But I got the cookies. Best cookies in the West, or anywhere else, I reckon. The sharpshooter bites into a cookie. His expression suggests that he is experiencing the gastronomic equivalent of a boy's first orgasm. Fade out.
Sounds like a bit of an
You'd
epic.
buy those cookies, right? Like,
Oh, yeah.
Sounds like the cookie or the Cujo's cookie crisp
I
campaign.
think that's how we have to end every pound cake with fade out.
Fade out, yeah. A child had a boner. Fade out. Here's a little bit of King's odd description of the opposite sex. Right, so probably at this very moment, Lisa, who is beautiful, just 21, and almost totally breastless.
God.
I had that moment too because it's Vic who's like normally like okay, but then he thinks
It's a
this shit
secretary,
about
right?
Lisa.
Yeah.
And he also says like, oh, you couldn't get a secretary to stay until the stroke of 5 anymore. As far as Vic was concerned, it was just another sign of the continuing decay of Western civ. Like, okay, Vic.
Women are going to go do their
old-fashioned.
things.
And when Don cheats on him, he's just like, my wife, my property.
He's very upset. He's very upset. Max,
Another brilliant description of Castle Rock where Vic is talking about how he and Rod used to go like eat by this pond. And it says, Vic had noted a decaying rat floating amid the condoms and gum wrappers at the edge of the pond. And I just thought, oh, Jesus. Like, what town is this? Like,
Sounds like the river's edge.
Yeah.
Mike, you have another one?
Oh, we already mentioned the one how like she had seen his penis close up, had it in her mouth. That's not really. I guess that's much. That's not pound cake, really.
No, that's well done.
But this is pound
much.
cake, and this is a few pages after the one that you mentioned, Justin. It's with God, which characters actually? I can't even find the character names on here. Either way, it's on page 125. The images. Oh yeah, here it is. The images began to unreel again. Crumpled sheets, straining bodies, soft sounds. Ugly phrases, terrible turns kept crowding up like a bunch of freaks looking at an accident. Nookie, hair pie, gross. Put the boots to her. Shot my load. I don't fuck for fortune and I don't fuck for fame, but the way I fuck your mama is a goddamn shame. I turtle in your mud. Bang for the gang. Stoop for the troops. Inside my wife. He thought, agonized hands and clenching.
That's right.
Inside my wife.
I remember that now. Yeah,
It's Vic. He can't
Vic.
get it out
He's
of his
freaking out
mind.
about he can't get
I
his
had
wife.
But just like the could be any. You know, in Donnie Darko, they say like cellar door is like the most gorgeous like pairing of words. Hair pie. Could there any? It's like one of the most disgusting
open
combinations.
face sandwich. That sounds disgusting.
Oh, that's how I think of. That's what I think of every time I look at Larry Bird. He looks like an open face sandwich. But anyway,
no more hoops talk here.
Yeah.
Mel.
Speaking of Donna, we get a description of her. A pretty dark-haired woman of 29, tall, gray-eyed. She somehow managed to look tolerably fresh in spite of the relentless heat. Her tad-printed blouse and the Academy gray shorts that felt pasted to her hips and fanny.
Sounds like a John Mellencamp song. 29!
It's a good thing she's tolerably fresh.
Yeah, thank God.
29 and tolerably fresh.
She got that fanny up on the trash. And like, you know.
Academy pants. We should record that as soon as possible.
Yeah.
I've got a couple instances of pound cake, literally, that take place in this book. Mac, I'll name one. I'll do one of them if you want to do the other one.
Yeah.
Did you get two of them, Mac, or did you just get one? Okay. Well, which one? You read yours first, and I'll read mine.
Do it to wrap it up.
Okay. All right. There you go. Well, I'll skip that. In a matter of fact, I'll skip that. Let's get to George Mira, the mailman's issues. And there's a little King's Dominion in here, by the way. So let me read this. George Mira, the mailman, lifted one leg, clad in blue-gray post office issue, and farted. Just lately, he farted a great deal. He was mildly worried about it. Didn't seem to matter what he had been eating. Last night, he and his wife had creamed cod on toast, and he had farted. This morning, Kellogg's product 19, with a banana cut up in it, and he had farted. This noon, down at the Mellow Tiger in town, 2 cheeseburgers with mayonnaise, ditto farts. Thanks.
Oh, I had another one on page 195 where it said, George lifted his leg and farted again.
Is that like sometimes they come back again? That's great. All right, Mac, go ahead.
All right, I'll jump around here a little bit. Page 218 of the Signet, Donna's recalling having Tad. She says, the horrible, squelching, gutty sound of the afterbirth coming out of her. I'm puking up his life support systems. Oof. And then she passed out. And I just thought that was a very visceral take on having a child.
It's the miracle of life.
That is the miracle.
Beautiful.
Life. Mike, did you have another one?
Yeah, I'm trying to find it. It says on here I put 154 RAM left in my ramrod. I'm trying to see.
It's probably some Gary quote, right?
Yeah, talking about how he's still. No, I think it's Steve Kemp. I think he's like talking about how he still has it. He still has more to do or something.
Okay. We can get back to you, Mike, if you want to find something else, or did you want to think of another passage? Or
you guys keep going.
Okay, Mel.
I thought it was a little creepy when Charity is like looking at Brett.
Okay, here we go. This is what I want to talk about.
Thank you.
All right, Mel, do you have the passage here?
Oh, yes.
I do.
I'm going to defend the fuck out of this. Go ahead.
Right, ready?
God.
You're going to defend the
I'm going to defend
okay,
this.
Here we go. It was a moment she never forgot. She saw her son clad only in his pajama bottoms and for a moment dimly comprehended the mystery of his boyhood so soon to be left behind. Her mother's eyes loved the slim curves of his muscles, the line of his buttocks, the clean soles of his feet. He seemed utterly perfect.
That, to me, is a parent looking at their child and seeing the child is no longer a child. I don't think there's anything like sexual about it.
I'm fine
I see
with
they're
that.
looking at is like
Take out the butt.
Okay, maybe take out the butt. But even that part, it makes sense. It's not I don't like getting into the childhood body parts, but I mean, it makes sense that she would look at and like not even recognize that her little boy anymore and kind of see like he's growing up off her eyes.
My baby's got a fat ass.
Yeah, If he's still like, what's the
Just take out the
forget
butt.
Paris thing? He's like, that's fine. Come on, forget Paris.
I just want to thank Mel for being the one to come up with that because this is the one that I was talking about yesterday.
No problem with that. No, I have no problem with that. I will be the first to talk about like describing body parts in weird ways, but I was like, that's fine.
I don't necessarily have a problem with this, but I love the image of Steve just wandering around the house, breaking things with a huge heart on.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
Like, I'm loving this, but my heart on, like, it's just like his dick, just like this piston that's just like waving around. Like,
it's funny. I'm looking at all the pound cake here that I have, and I don't think I have any Steve Kemp stuff.
Well, because I think most of that is
it kind of makes sense.
It makes sense to the plot of like who he is and the whole. We talked about the climax.
Did you have another one?
Good old Gary.
Oh boy,
his last release I wrote here. A terrible stomach cramp seized him as he finished voiding himself. Disgusting. They have been getting more common lately. As he doubled up, a large and foul-smelling flatulence purred out from between his skinny shanks.
Oh, jeez.
Jesus, the alliteration.
Boy.
The alliteration's really nice there with the skinny shanks, but come on.
This is another one that we argued over yesterday.
Oh, yeah. You read this, too.
I'm not going to read it. We don't even have to read it. But
I want to hear it.
No, I want to hear it. This is
all right.
Read it.
Let me find it.
It's with Bannerman, right?
It is with Bannerman.
All right, read this fucking thing.
No, it's he talks about his daughter's breasts on page 436, and when he's dying, he's just like, sitting there and he's just thinking, that made him think of his own daughter, Katrina, who would be going into the 7th grade this year. She was getting breasts now, becoming quite the little lady, piano lessons, wanted a horse. I mean,
I think you're tying in the breasts with becoming quiet little lady, but I think that's two separate things. I think it's like she's no longer like a girl. She's developing, and she's becoming quiet little lady, as in she's kind of developing her own thoughts, and she's not becoming a daddy's little girl.
Yeah.
anymore. That's how I read that.
No, yeah,
that's how I read that.
Absolutely.
And then he mentions her ass. No, I'm kidding.
I'm
kidding.
He's like, yeah, your daughter starts to get boobs. She's a woman, but what's the equivalent for a dude? Oh, the butt.
Oh, the butt. Like, what shit? She was like, I looked down at Brett. I couldn't believe how big his dick was getting. No, so that, I had no problem with that.
I do, in a sense,
that.
I do, because it becomes this like indicator for it's just like defining characteristic again of just like a female. It's like, oh well, she's getting breasts now, so that's there's so many instances
growing up.
Yeah.
I have no problem with that.
This was.
I stand by.
By the way,
it.
I love
Gerber
Stephen
Island.
King as a writer.
Yeah, it's a Gerber Island over here. Like
Gerber Island.
This was another instance of. Okay, let me just read it. Page 144. It's just a little creepy. It's probably more cemetery for me. Sorry. Donna sees a little boy. She says, a pot-bellied kid of maybe 2 stood in the driveway, his sopping pamper hanging below his tiny penis, his mouth hung open, and was picking his nose with one finger and his navel with another. And she just kind of like, ugh. She's like, stop, like focusing on this, you know. But I just thought it was just like this weird instance of coming across this like backwoods like family.
It's like seeing how the other half lives or whatever it is.
It was just kind of like, oy vey.
Anybody else have anything else?
Yeah, I got one more. Where is it? There's a part where Donna's savagely beating Cujo, and where is it? Shoot. Sorry.
To fill in the space while Mike's looking, there was.
You want to do the little?
I just like when Kemp mentioned, like when he was like, when did your crotch turn to gold?
Oh yeah, what a jerk! and she realized right there, this guy seems like a real piece of shit.
Yeah. Exactly.
All right, Mike, what do you got?
So Cujo's forward motion carried him into her, and this is Donna, and knocked her sprawling. His teeth now snapped and snarled bare inches from her neck. She put her arm up as Cujo crawled farther on top of her. His face was now oozing down the side of his face. Or his eye was now oozing down the side of his face. His breath was hideous. She tried to push his muzzle up, and his jaws clamped on her forearm. This huge red rocket poured out of his. No.
Yeah. That's another Steve Kemp thing. That's another.
I'm glad we took like 2 minutes to find that passage for the bit.
Well, I couldn't find it. I was like, am I going to still do this bit? No, we're not. We could cut that out. We're cutting it out.
In there.
That's another like Steve Kemp thing though, like where like Cujo's getting with this hard on while he's like doing all this stuff, and Steve Kemp's the same way.
I like it. We're still going to keep it as if it's a real thing.
People who have not read this book are not going to know if you guys are kidding.
There is no red rocket mention in the book. If you're not catching up, okay, Mac, will you please read? Oh, sorry, Mel.
Wait, one. I just like that Stephen King has to get a dig in at fat people.
Yes,
on page 69. This is about Donna. She could go over and see Joni Welsh, who had a little girl about Tad's age, but Joni always made her uneasy. She was 3 years older than Donna and 10 pounds heavier. The extra 10 pounds did not seem to bother her. She said her husband liked her that way. Joni was contented with things as they were in Castle Rock. How unthinkable.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Oh, 10 pounds.
Well, Donna's obviously a very real human being in that case. But they also, I remember there's also, they talk about Roger, how Roger doesn't have like a waist anymore. It's just like or he doesn't have a lap anymore or something weird like that. Because of how big it is. Okay, Mac.
All right, yeah, so I was just going to wrap it up where King became, if King was here, he would say this to us. We could tell them to take their lousy pound cake and pound it up their asses.
That's a line from the book. That's
crazy.
A line from the book.
I think that's a good one to end on.
Well, then earlier on, Gracie takes a sharp pound cake from the freezer. I noticed it.
And
oh
the
my
last
God.
word, Justin.
That's pretty good.
So we had a lot of fun with some pound cake, but let's
always do.
Obviously, this book has a lot of ties to other Stephen King works, so why not enter into King's Dominion?
There's another world out there. I know there is.
Who wants to kick off the old King's Dominion?
I mean, just the obvious ones. I mean, we've got Castle Rock and Frank Dodd and Sheriff Bannerman. We've got Tad seeing the Boogeyman from Night Shift, possibly. A little carryover. We've got page 270. Cujo stared at the man from the blue car with rising hate. It was the man who had caused all his pain. And I said that was kind of like a Frank Dodd, connection to Bannerman. But that was all I had for King's Dominion. Did you guys come up with anything else?
George Mira frequents the Mellow Tiger Bar, and that's a bar that pops up in other Stephen King short stories.
What is it?
The Mellow Tiger Bar.
Mellow Tiger. I thought you said Yellow Tiger.
Oh,
and I thought,
that's really
Dead Zone.
No, but that bar pops up in other King books and to come in the 80s. Again, we've really talked a lot about Frank Dodd and George Bannerman, and that's the crux of the King's Dominion right there. It's the first example of returning to a pre-existing location. I do have a bullshit one here. If I read that one.
Cool.
Donna recounts a dream to Vic, and she says, I thought for just a second there that Joan Brady would come out of Tad's closet and her head would be gone. I think you mentioned this.
Yeah.
But did you highlight the fact that Joan would say to her, I died in a car crash when I was 19.
No.
Coming back from Sammy's Pizza. So there you go.
It is an age that people can be.
Yeah. Allegedly, people get to the age of 19.
Well,
nobody's written a song about it.
If we're going 237,
here we go.
if we're going down that route, I've got a couple of good ones here. Just to cite the same line I just said, Cujo stared at the man from the blue car with rising hate. It was the man who had caused all his pain. Blofeld, the author of all of James Bond's pain. Maybe this is connected to the James Bond universe.
Hold on, I'm going to make this clear. So for anybody out there who remembers the teaser trailer to Spectre, will understand what the fuck you're talking about right now.
Okay, all right. Let me bring it back to more King-centric 237. Room 237. All right, Aunt Evie Chalmers. The description says that she was pushed into death, and I thought maybe that was kind of like a reference to the pusher from the
Dark
Tower.
Oh, okay. Well,
that's more of a connection and not as much as a leap. But
that's definitely room 237.
But it's definitely room 237.
Anybody else have any specific King's Dominions?
We're going to be talking about Castle Rock a lot over the next few books. So I think we've talked about Bannerman a lot. We've talked about his ties to Johnny Smith. I think that's enough with King's Dominion.
I think we're gonna. Wow, we were here. We are at the end of our rope here. We're going to now give our overall thoughts. So I've got some stuff here from Allison, Randall, and Dan, who are not here. But Mel has to actually get going here. We've gone really long on this episode.
Yeah, we really have.
But Mel definitely wanted to give her final thoughts. So Mel, where do you stand on Cujo, the book?
I loved it, and I didn't expect to love it, and so it was a very pleasant surprise. I really like stories that are have intimate settings, like in this case, the Pinto. Much of the terror is just in this isolated area in a car. You're stuck with two people, one of whom doesn't really talk for most of it. The interiority of these characters is really well developed. I thought the book is just like brimming with tragedy from the very beginning. Like you just know things are going to go so wrong for people that don't deserve it and for a dog that doesn't deserve it. And I thought everything was not everything. Like there's pound cake in here, but it was really well done. I thought I'm going to give it 4 bright red Pennywise clown noses.
All right. Well, Mel, thanks again for being here. Do you need to run off, or do you want to hear our opinions too?
I really want to hear it. I want to stick around for a second.
Okay, no problem. Who wants to go for next? Mike, you want to go next?
Okay, I'll go second. I actually I had some trouble with this one, just going in there, just because I think that there are a lot of great ideas. That I think the premise is exceptional. I think it's a genius premise, and especially knowing how he came up with it now after reading it is really interesting, and how he was able to kind of pull it into something. I think a lot of the themes that he kind of meditates on in this book are put to greater use and effect in Pet Sematary, even though it's a far more supernatural book in that. And I think listening to the three of you like go over a lot of these ideas and us being able to wrestle with it, I've come to respect the book a little bit more, because it is to our point, like it is a little bit more realistic, especially over Pet Sematary, where animals come back to life, including human beings. But for me, there's still just a lot of like unnecessary sections that just kind of slowed and dragged me down a little bit. And just from a writing standpoint, just a lot of the foreshadowing just still bothers me, because I think that when he does it, put it to great use, it's one of his strong suits. And then when he kind of leans into it too much, it's not only just his weaker elements as a writer, but it also kind of hampers a lot of his stronger elements as a writer. And for me, I don't know. I still enjoyed it. I still loved I loved the horror of it. I loved a lot of the characters. I think where the revelation that there are parallels to all the different characters while we were talking about this makes me like this a lot. And so for me, it's got a lot of interesting things about addiction and guilt and the reality of life, with the disappointments and the, where we go. But so for me, I would probably go with around 3.5. 3.5. I want to go 3.5. Brightway, Pennywise. I don't know.
Very good. Mac.
Yeah, I agree with Mike. We were talking about this earlier, and I was kind of talking to Mike while he was reading the rest of it, and I had all the same complaints that he did about some of the what I felt were superfluous storylines. However, having read the whole thing at this point and talking to everybody today, I do agree. I think originally I had about 3 bright red
that's right,
Pennywise clown noses, but after talking about it at length today, I do think it's been bumped to a 3.5 for me. I do like a lot of the parallels. I do like what it's trying to say. And Justin, what's the slogan of the new book coming out?
Nope, nothing wrong here.
Nope, nothing wrong here. And honestly, there really isn't. I liked the book Cujo, and I'm going to give it 3.5 noses.
It's funny because I think I would actually still just give it 3.5 out of. I wouldn't say just, because 3.5 to me means it's a good novel. I think it's a good novel. This is a second.
It's out of 5, right?
It's out of 5. Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
oh,
good.
yes, please. Yeah, please. Yeah. I would give it a 3.5. Bright red Pennywise clown noses. I've read this book a couple times over the years, but again, I approached it from this whole new angle of the nope, nothing wrong here. And I really liked all the subtext about avoidance, like you said, Mike, about addiction. And we've talked about the dual perspective of the fiercely protective mother in Donna and the fiercely protective mother in Charity. I just liked a lot of the undercurrent going throughout the book. And of course, I also liked all the stuff happening at the garage with the dog named Cujo. I have to give it 3.5 because I also gave Salem's Lot and The Shining and Carrie, I think, 4 out of 5. And I can't quite put Cujo on that level for me personally.
Keep in mind, I'm coming off of Roadwork and Firestarter.
That's another good point, though, because once again, for us, like Firestarter, I don't speak for all of us, but like Firestarter and Roadwork is just so base. There's just not a lot to talk about besides what's actually on the page. But I feel like as evidenced by this very lengthy episode, we had a lot to talk about, and there's a lot to dive into. And so I really like it for all of that. And so it was a fascinating reread for me. 3.5 out of 5. And we do have some notes here from losers who are not here today. The first from Allison Shoemaker. And for the book, she says 3 clown noses, 3.5 depending on my mood.
I think that's fair. I mean, that's kind of where we're at.
Yeah. Randall says, the book I read 20 years ago, but I give it 3.5 noses. I'm going to read this, he's embarrassed. Love the guy jerking off in the bed. He goes, no, but I do remember Cujo having a surprisingly deep and interesting ensemble for it being a quote-unquote killer dog book. That's a good point. I remember it also being tremendously sad. And I just can't, because I can't deal with dead dogs. And it's a good point. It's all sad. Dan has a very lengthy one here. He gives it 4, like you, Mel. He gives it 4 out of 5. And he says, and here we go. Upon rereading Cujo, its closest literary relative seems to be Jaws. We talked about.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Interesting.
Each work uses the threat of a ferocious yet very realistic animal to magnify marital unrest and the feeling of being smothered by a small town. Like Jaws, the fight against the titular beast ends up being what saves the marriage. The twins are only truly ready to work on themselves after Donna's trauma and the loss of their son. That's an interesting perspective on the outcome, too. Once again, it's open-ended, so you can really interpret it however you want to. But Cujo has a leg up on Jaws. Pun very much intended. He writes, he feels there's a compelling parallel structure going on between the Trins and the Cambers. Absolutely. It's a very long review, Dan. I asked you just like a text length there. He thinks Steve Kemp is perhaps the most realistic and frightening example of a different kind of monster. We made jokes about that, but it's true. He's a monster of the humankind. And he kind of agrees with, we were kind of going back and forth on this. It leans a little too heavy on foreshadowing. The mailman farts too much. And he's not quite sure King really pulls off the implication that Cujo may be possessed by Frank Dodd. And I think we were kind of definitely going back and forth on that. He loves the ballsiness of killing off both Bannerman and Tad. And he feels really sorry for the dog. 4 bright Pennywise clown noses for this old dog.
4?
He gives it 4.
Wow. probably because he owns a dog that's a killer dog. So
yeah, that's a very good point.
I think too. I was just very much fooled, like the whole Once Upon a Time thing, and again coming home from road work. Like, I just feel like I totally got taken in, totally worked on me. I stick by 4. 3.5 seems fair. Let
me do the math really quickly in my head here. So how many of us gave it 3.5 then? We'll do Allison with 3.5 too. So it's 5 of us gave it 3.5. 17.5, 20.25. So that's like a 4.7. Like a
3.7.
It's a 3.56. Oh. 3.6 out of 3.6 bright red Pennywise clown noses.
Yeah, so if you can picture a 3.6.
So draw like
Penny
3
red
clown noses and then like 0.6 of a clown nose, and that's what you got here. The official rating for this book. So
my GPA in high school.
Oh, wow. Mike just put on his sunglasses.
Mike put on his sunglasses and announced that.
Lame.
So, all right, well, just a second. We're going to jump into the film adaptation, but we do want to say, Mel, thanks a lot for being here once again. Great time by all. And we will see you soon, Mel.
My first episode with Mel.
Yes.
This is Mike's first episode with Mel. Wow.
We didn't kill each other?
We did not kill each other.
It worked out okay?
It worked great.
We survived.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like the 3 of you ganged up on me personally about the whole Brett's ass and what's her name?
Hey, when you have a kid...
What's wrong with Brett's ass?
When you have a kid, I'm going to just warn your wife and be like, hey, just let you know. Like
he really likes these kids' asses.
Yeah.
It's kind of sweet. On that note, Mel, we'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.
Don't worry, Mom. I know all about cannibalism. I saw it on TV.
See? It's okay. You saw it on the television.
Well, get out your popcorn and your dog biscuits, depending on whether or not you're a human or a dog, and maybe you like dog biscuits. Who knows? We're taking a trip to the cinema to talk about 1983's adaptation of Stephen King's Cujo.
It's not a monster, it's just a doggy.
Well, Justin, I do love dog biscuits. I'm like Martin Riggs in Lethal Weapon 3. I like to eat them all the time, and it's a way for me to not smoke and run around like a homicidal maniac.
Well, there's a character named Raj in Cujo.
Oh, there is, yeah.
It's not the same.
I also, when I was a child, would eat dog food sometimes, so I'm on board with this.
That's confirmed.
True story, my dad actually had to eat dog food to get into his fraternity. And also true story, my dad's a fucking idiot.
So 1983's Cujo. Here's a little bit of the behind-the-scenes story. There was a treble production, and there's a writer named Lee Gambon who we were hoping to have on this episode, but time caught up to us. He wrote a behind-the-scenes book about the making of Cujo called Nothing Wrong Here, The Making of Cujo. And he's working on a Christine behind-the-scenes book. We do hope to have him on to talk about both of those.
We'll have him on.
We've already in touch, and we're looking forward to that. But here's just some little information I picked up on my own. A couple days or shortly into filming, the original director, Peter Medic, who directed future episodes of Carnival on the Wire as well as The Changeling, was going to direct this film. And he and his cinematographer were fired or left or fired, who knows what it was, shortly after filming began. And they were replaced by director Louis Teague, who had directed Alligator, which is a cool little fun, gross skater movie. And he would later direct Stephen King's Cat's Eye adaptation. But most importantly, he brought with him a pretty good cinematographer at the time named Jan de Bont, who would go on to direct Speed and Twister. Isn't that crazy? Can you name the 3 other movies that Jan de Bont directed? He's only directed 5 movies.
Did he do... oh God, there's a huge big blockbuster one I'm totally forgetting. I know he was supposed to do Meg. I know they didn't.
I can tell you. What are they?
Speed 2, Cruise Control.
He did Speed 2 also?
Sure did.
Wow.
That's how they feel like the same franchise still.
Well, yeah.
That was on HBO last night, and I skipped over it.
Great movie.
Good job.
The Haunting remake.
Oh, that's what it was. Yeah,
remake.
That's what I was thinking of.
And Tomb Raider: The Cradle of Life, the sequel to the Tomb Raider with Angelina Jolie.
So
that's it?
he just kept going up.
Yeah, that's crazy though to think that he only of all those successful movies he had, because Speed and Twister are huge,
and that's just Jan de Bont.
That's just Jan de Bont. Yeah. The composer of this film, Charles Bernstein, what was his biggest claim to fame?
Being brothers with Elmer Bernstein.
That's not right, Mike. Is that right? Actually,
I don't know. Actually,
well, who knows? But I will say this: it's strange because Mac, you just asked me who composed Nightmare on Elm Street. It was Charles Bernstein.
Oh, interesting. Oh. You did ask that.
Because what were we watching that I felt? Oh, was it Maniac Cop?
Yeah, something like that.
I felt like the score was very similar.
So let's get into this. What do we like? What do we like about the Cujo adaptation? Like, what do you think they did good to start off the bat?
I think that it's a fairly true adaptation.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you're actually looking at the book as a whole and seeing it as a horror movie, as a lot of the book really is, it definitely takes that out, and it gets to the. I think this film is largely responsible for making it seem as if like Stephen King is just great at coming up with just horror stories.
It's distilled.
It's like capsule horror, where you're like, oh, this is the one with the dog. This is the one with the car.
Yeah.
This is kind of the beginning of that. And I think the film does a really good job in making it seem like it's more than just about the dog, because they do kind of, the one downfall is they don't really have the Camber storyline.
Oh, that's gone, yeah.
Which really, and they also don't kill Tad, which kind of really changes the whole theme of the book. But at the whole, like, there is like a hopefulness to it that is very Spielberg-esque,
There's the happy ending.
Hammered that a bunch in this episode with the allusions to Jaws and everything, but the idea that like the last shot of this film is a family embracing is very Spielberg in nature.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it
and
works.
It's of course starring Dee Wallace, who was in E.T.
Yeah,
so
only
like
the year
Supermom.
before.
Yeah.
So I do think that there's the survival nature of this mother who has to fight for her child in the midst of her crumbling marriage, and then for them to all come back together. There is a hopefulness that does not exist in this book whatsoever. So there's a standalone thing. I like that because I like when the adaptations kind of diverge in ways that make sense for the narrative still. This is kind of like another what if,
Well, and I agree with you, because when I was watching this, and I knew about the book ending before watching the movie. And so watching the movie, it was very satisfying to me to see Tad live. Because it was one of those situations where it's like, when you go back and let's say you reread Cujo and you're like, God, I know what's coming and I wish it was different. And so, and it's like, depending on your mood, you can go to the movie and watch that and get that ending and feel like satisfied,
Yeah, I think in the movie, I don't think it would have worked as well. And the movie that we were given, I don't think at the 85-minute mark of this movie, if Tad had died, it would have fit with what came before.
It would have had to gone on longer, and they would have had to show the aftermath. They would have had to show, and they would have had to work back in the Cambers and stuff to make it really work. But I do love the film for the fact that it feels so real. The claustrophobic atmosphere of the car, of them in the car, they look like they're dying in there. The heat. I mean, like, whoever did the set dressing for, just like the overall, and like we're saying, the cinematography, just all that stuff just really came together, I feel, for this film, and really made you feel like there's just no out for them.
Well, I mean, like, Dee Wallace just brings it. I mean, this is her best performance, I think, even over E.T.
Yeah.
Because she just captures that sort of miserable experience of just not knowing what the outcome is going to be. I mean, her terror is just genuine in this movie. And like, I think it happens early on too. Like, I mean, her transformation, they describe her in the book as, what was it? Like a peach or something, like a rotten, like almost like a rotten peach or something like that. And they capture that in the film with her face just changes so fast with this gripping situation. Like you see her and her eyes are just these like radiant blue, but by the end of the movie it's like almost like this dusty blue, and her face around it is just so disheveled, and she just really, it looks like they just dragged her through the ringer on this. And it's similar to like almost like the role with was it Kathy in Texas Chainsaw Massacre. By the end of that movie, she just looks like she just went through hell.
Well, that's the thing. Like, the first thing I think about when I think about the movie is just the multiple shots of her in the car with Tad, and just that beads of sweat.
Yeah,
and like
the
just
heat.
the dirt, and then and eventually kind of like the blood on him. You feel the heat in this movie. I'm not talking about the heat around the corner for heat. I'm talking about real heat.
Well, I mean, you look at Tad, and Tad is just like you feel like the kid is going to die.
Yeah.
I mean, there's that scene where he's like crumpled in the back, and there's like the sun beaming in through like the back of the hatchback on him.
You can't escape the sun
anywhere
either. It's just shining through wherever you go. You're in that closed space.
And that claustrophobia, there's this wonderful shot that's like 360 that just keeps going around and around and around faster, and it just captures the mania and the hysteria of this situation.
It's right after she gets bit.
Yeah.
And she just gets him out of the car, and she's kind of losing focus. He's just crying, screaming. You see like the dog on the other side of the car barking, and then the camera starts to spin. But yeah, the movie wouldn't work if if Dee Wallace wasn't as amazing as she is in this. I mean, and also credit's got to go to Danny Pintaro as Tad. That's a great childhood performance in that movie. I mean, she is yanking him around, and he's having to play. He's unconscious. He's really sweet and cute. Like there's an instance early on in the movie when he's trying to time turning off the switch to turn off the lights in the beginning and to run to his bed in time. Yeah. And he misses it the first time, so he's got to go back again and then turn off the lights and run to bed. It's just little touches like that. I really
do they stretch the room?
I don't think I think it's a camera trick.
Okay,
but that's the thing about
it
Louis
looks
in this too, is that this isn't just like a point and shoot thing. This isn't just somebody just coming onto a project. I mean, there's a couple of shots of like the camera going upside down and kind of following him, going Dutch angle, following Tad to the bed because he's afraid of the monster in the closet. Just from a technical standpoint, it's a pretty it's a tight movie. It's under 90 minutes. It reminds me of that bygone era of just kind of like quick, efficient horror movies that aren't like they're definitely not classics, but just good old video rentals from back in the day. You know, some more people in the cast we got to talk about. This is something incredible that I've always amazed by. Is the actor who plays Kemp is Christopher Stone, and he also plays Dee Wallace's character in The Howling, her husband in The Howling.
Oh, interesting.
Who cheats on her and becomes a werewolf and everything else.
I didn't even pick up on that.
But in reality, they were married in real life.
Oh, really?
They were married. So she was married to these two awful people from the movies, but they were married until his death in 1995.
Oh, yeah, that's sad.
And it's just a testament to how good of an actor he was as well, to appear to be this total dickhead. But it's funny because they actually worked together in another dog-centric project called The New Lassie. They were both in that together.
Is it NU Lassie?
It was like new metal. It was like, he loves like Korn and Limp Bizkit.
King says that Dee Wallace should have won an Academy Award or been nominated at the very least. I agree.
She's amazing in this, and it just reminds me of those just a couple scenes in E.T. where it won me over with her. I wish she was in more stuff. I was really happy to see her pop up in Lords of Salem. But hey, Dee, like, we'd love to have you on.
That's the thing about Rob Zombie. We shit on his movies, but he does bring back these like legitimately good actors from the 70s and 80s that you just don't see anymore because they're not given the opportunity.
Like Meg Foster.
Meg Foster's a great example of that. Another terrific character actor pops up in this, Ed Lauder, who died a couple years ago.
Who was also in Golden Years.
Who's in Golden Years and somebody from The Shop, I guess, in that. He's been in a million. He's one of those that guy people.
Yeah.
He did a great random roles on the AV Club a couple years ago before he passed away. He's nothing like he is in these movies at all. He's just very joyful, like loves talking about his experiences and who he worked with. He worked with Clint Eastwood a lot. He's really good as Joe in this. And again, like we said, the Cambers are the rest of the family. Charity and Brett are pretty much non-existent in this. Yeah. Although I should point out that the actor who plays Brett later appeared as Parker Lewis's best friend, and Parker Lewis Can't Lose.
Oh, you're right.
Starring Harold Lauder himself.
Harold Lauder.
Weird.
Corin Nemec.
Yeah,
Corin Nemec.
That's Randall's favorite actor.
Synchronized watches.
Oh, he's amazing, let's be honest. Some other things. I also need to point out that I did not know this. They do a really good job in the movie, but it's not just the dog that you see. Some of these, I guess, were actually shot with like a man in a dog suit. Now, I'm assuming after watching it again, it's just the scenes where he's kind of on his legs up against her. Mm-hmm. But again, even watching it, knowing that, I could not pick out because there was a lot of quick cuts in those instances and extreme close-ups, I think, and that's when you're able to see it. If you go online and Google it, you'll see like a picture of the director next to the guy in the dog suit. I know we're going fast here, but
no, but I didn't pick up on that at all.
The dog in this movie
is phenomenal.
It's unbelievable. There's a scene. Okay, it's hard enough to convince you that this sweet Saint Bernard has all of a sudden become rabid, but there's actually a specific scene where Cujo is, I think, looking at he's looking at the car or the house, and the camera's coming up behind him, and then goes right up next to his face, and the dog is still looking straight ahead at the house. Like, I don't know how you train the dog to not all of a sudden see this camera all of a sudden up to your left and not have the instinct to look at that camera. It's the little things like that I was looking at in the movie and just thinking it's tough because again, you could have used like bad models or something like that as a dog, but they do an incredible job.
There's a great sequence where you see the dog. I mean, there's a lot of physical performance from this dog. I mean, the physical performance of this dog is incredible. I mean, there's a shot where the Saint Bernard's on the top of the car and it's trying to claw its way in, but then it wedges its paw in the window that's kind of only like a 75% of the way like rolled up, and it like wedges its paw and then it falls over and with the paw in, and then it keeps kind of trying to get in. And it's like, I don't know what they must, we were joking about it earlier. They must put like piles of dog food in, like
you've got to get it. Like try to get feed the dog for like 3 days or something.
But it's just really like, you really believe that this dog is rabid and is going to get into this car and is, very methodical
and
about it.
And that speaks a lot to like just the makeup and what they did to the dog's face, because you could have an essentially like just like really jovial dog just trying to play, but you slap slop on its face, you slap blood makeup or whatever it is on this, foam. It's truly terrifying because you don't. It's the same exact kind of playful nature, but it's just totally different intention, and it's just creepy.
There's I think the scariest part of the movie, the best jump scare for me is there have already been a couple point of views, or POV angles of Cujo like approaching people. So there's a part where the Trintons get to the garage and she's trying to get them out of the seatbelt, and the camera creeps up behind them, and you think it's right behind Donna, and all of a sudden it jumps out on the passenger side trying to get in. I thought that was a great piece of direction there. I was totally fooled.
Oh yeah,
I really like that part a lot.
The whole when she looks underneath the car, the way they handle that, where she can't see where Cujo is, and she kind of like hits the ground to kind of see where the Cujo might be, and then Cujo just actually is right behind her, and then just ravages her. I mean, it's that whole sequence of how she's just decimated by this dog is pretty horrendous, and it's very real and very true to the book. Like I hadn't seen this movie in a while, and
they
reading
cut
this book
out a lot, but the things that actually happen in the movie really do happen in the book, with the exception of Tad.
But I love even the ending though, where like Cujo jumps through the window into the house. And
that's
stuff,
like that's your classic 80s.
That's
horror.
a classic 80s horror. But
Yeah.
I still really liked that though. I mean, like it was like even if they did get inside the house, this thing is and that was another like thing where you're like, all right, well maybe this dog is supernatural. Like you just can't kill this dog.
Well, in the book, she wedges a baseball bat in Cujo's eye, and he's still alive,
still coming at her. Yeah,
I know.
So there is elements of that still in the book, but yeah, the window thing is total classic, like last scare sort of thing.
Very Friday.
Teague was like, I'll only do it if I can have the dog jump through the window at the very
Friday
end.
the 13th part 2.
Oh, well, yes, absolutely,
love it.
Obviously the biggest difference between, and we've already discussed this, is the film and the book is that Tad doesn't die. And I guess Teague thought it was going to be too much of a letdown if and the emotionality of what would come would be just too much to handle.
That's what I felt like. Yeah, it wouldn't have resonated. It wouldn't have felt the same as when you're reading the book.
Yeah, I mean, like it says here in the Stephen King universe book, is like King agreed to Teague's change, just realizing that most movies work on a much simpler and far more direct emotional level than his novels. And I guess he probably really thought it worked. I'm interested to know, because I guess he wrote the initial script to this, and then it was later credited to the two screenwriters, Lauren Currier and Don Carlos Dunaway. I'm interested to know in that initial script if Tad did die.
I feel like there was probably a draft of him dying.
Yeah.
It makes sense. I mean, that's like the big ending of the book. You feel like that probably would have been the case.
What if they kept him the freeze frame ending, but it's like, when did he die?
What?
And then it just ends.
Oh God!
It ends up her screaming or something.
Yeah. Some fun facts about the movie, though.
Oh, if you got some,
I got some.
Oh, yeah, go.
Let's see. There's a tree, I guess, that was right on the location. I mean, there's a bunch of trees, but either way, they took one of them, and they made 250 custom-made guitars at the time, and they dubbed it the Cujo guitars, and they were manufactured by Taylor Guitars. And what they did is they took all the wood from this one tree, and then they made the guitars, and then King signed each one of them, and they were priced at $3,498. I don't know why they got to just that.
That is so bizarre to me, because Taylor is like a great guitar producer.
And this is a great idea.
The fact that they did this is just kind of bizarre to me, because they're like the top end, at least acoustic wise, and it's just kind of crazy.
There's also just nothing in this movie that like really refers to guitars or rock and roll.
Yeah, it's like Fender doing an It guitar now. It's like what why?
Yeah, it makes no sense.
Do you think is no relation to like rock and roll?
Like I could see if they did Larry Underwood.
They did like Christine or something like that, because it's like rock and roll oriented, I guess.
Or if like Vic was like trying to do advertising for a band or something.
Yeah, but it's like what? No.
Well, they probably looked at there was like, Well, we got to chop these trees down. We might as well make guitars out of them.
I can see them doing like a Cujo cereal because that's
Oh, that would have been good.
Cujo's Cookie
relevant,
Crisps.
you know?
Like Cujo's Woofs or something.
But if anyone has access to one of those guitars or wants to donate it to the Losers Club, just email us and send us the guitar.
And I guess this is more of a fact about the book itself, but King did own a Ford Pinto.
I like that too, though.
I did too.
I mean, it makes sense, you know. Couple other little points here I'd like to discuss here as I talk until I find what I'm looking for. Here it is. I do like how there's only about 10 seconds in New York City with Vic and Roger.
Yeah.
And I have it here. New York is represented by symphonic music, lobster dinners, and sirens.
Yeah.
Like they're like, how do we represent it? This is New York for 10 seconds here. We're clearly filming on
the lobster dinner I thought was hilarious. And then the way the look on their face, just like, we're living the life.
Like, I could do this in.
Yeah.
It's like I feel like we're in a New York minute here. I also like in terms of the structure when Gary and Joe die, they're pretty vicious deaths and they're kind of creepy, I guess, in a way. But there's not a lot of terror behind them.
No.
But the rest of the movie with the Trenton experience is a totally different. It's just more terrifying than it's horrifying. Do you know what I mean by that? There's like actual little legitimate like scares there, whereas it's just this force of nature tearing through Alice and killing Joe and Gary. Yeah. Bannerman's in this.
Actually, the truest version of Bannerman we've seen on film.
Because he looks like the character's written.
He doesn't look like a hunk like Tom Skerritt. And you look at Tom Skerritt and you're like, man, this guy is a fucking gorgeous man.
He's an
Bannerman's not
He's
that.
an old fox.
Bannerman sits there and eats chili.
That's right.
Late at night.
Late at night.
And this is, you're not going to imagine Tom Skerritt eating chili. I don't even imagine Tom Skerritt eating anything.
I could see him eating chili, but it would be like cool chili.
It would be like cold chili that's been sitting there after he's been like staring at the screen, like
an alien.
Ripley, come up to the dock.
I got chili.
And he just like he sort of like takes a bite and then it's cold. Vichyssoise.
I don't know. I always have Skerritt in my head from Parent Trap 2. That's he's
wait, is he in Parent Trap?
He's trying to hook him up.
He's like one of the love interests in Parent Trap 2.
The original one or the remake?
The sequel with the
sequel.
same. What's her name?
Haley Mills.
Haley Mills.
Wow.
Yeah. Check it out.
She's grown
Parent
up.
Trap 2. Check it out, everybody.
She has a daughter.
She sure does.
And they're twins, right?
Well, it's good to know that Skerritt's version of Bannerman would live on and River runs through it.
I remember the last sermon I heard him give, not long before his own death.
Each one of us here today will, at one time in our lives, look upon a loved one who is in need and ask the same question. We are willing to help, Lord, but what, if anything, is needed?
No. Jesus Christ. Directed by Robert Redford.
Yeah.
One last little piece before we go around and give our noses for the movie. There's a great moment. There's a lot of music throughout the film. It's good music. It's like, typical music, to be honest with you. But there's a great part where it's night and Cujo jumps on the hood of the car and stares at her. No music's playing when this happens. He just jumps on the car and just stares at her, and they stare back and forth. And I think she says, "Dear God, get us out of here," or something like that. And then the music kind of kicks in. But that was, these days, it would have been a total
sting.
Yeah. And as a matter of fact, let's talk about that, about Cujo. Should it be remade? Will it be remade? What do you think?
I don't think it'll be remade.
You don't think so?
I mean, I think it's one of the most popular King properties, but at the same time, there's not a lot that you can really. I guess you can, but I don't know. It just seems like it was such a literal adaptation that. I mean, down to even like at one point, Gary's drinking a screwdriver in the movie. That's Gary and Joe are, and then that's how detailed they got. I mean, she even says "fuck you" to the dog, just like when she's trying to leave, just like in the book. Also, I mean, it's a pretty literal adaptation, but I just think it's so much of a time that I don't know how you can really appeal. Like, I mean, the simplicity of just a dog being this scary thing, it's just not a type of horror movie element anymore.
I think that it's absolutely going to be remade.
Yeah.
And it's going to be remade with CG. Because
that's the question. The question was, should it be remade and will it be remade? So, Mike, you're saying it shouldn't be remade, but do you think it would be remade?
I just don't know, because I just don't know what the box office dollars for that would be. Because like, when was the last time we saw like something so singular in like a bottled story like this?
And that wasn't just like an indie horror movie.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
Like
I was just saying that it's going to be remade. And the problem is these days, there's a lot more attention put on treatment of animals in the processes of movies and things. And I just can't see them using a real dog to do some of these things. And you can't. They're not gonna have a guy in a dog suit this time around. You know, they're gonna just like it's gonna be super CG, and it's not gonna be good. And anyone that makes a good Cujo movie, I will eat my words, but I don't see it happening. I see it happening, but I don't see it being good.
I don't think it should happen, and I think that if it were to happen, they would really ramp up the fact. They would make it a point to say that no, Cujo is in fact possessed.
Yeah.
They wouldn't just have him be rabbit. They'd be rabbit, but there'd be something else. Like you would see some bullshit. I don't know. They wouldn't necessarily mention Frank Dodd because he wouldn't necessarily be a known property in this book when you're watching the film. But they would make it some like spirit of some killer took over a dog. I'm not kidding.
Well,
and of course there'd be a bunch of CGI that would just rip me.
The
right
only
out.
way they make that work, and I can see them doing this, is if they do Cujo, actually mention Frank Dodd. And then this is would be one of the only prequels I would be like, yeah, you have my blessing, as if they treat Dead Zone as a prequel to Cujo.
No, because I think they're definitely going to, we'll talk about Dead Zone in the future. I think they'll probably remake Dead Zone.
Yeah.
They might.
Yeah. But what do you guys think about the movie overall? How many bright red Pennywise clown noses would you give it, Mac?
I'd probably give it a 3.5. Mm-hmm. I'd say 3.5. I enjoyed the movie. I mean, even though it takes a lot of liberties, or it cuts out a lot of stuff from the book, but I still really enjoyed it. And the intense claustrophobic feeling of the car and just the heat and it still was really effective. And again, I really needed something good to happen at the end. So I give it the pass for Tad living. So I give it a 3.5 bright red Pennywise clown noses. Mike.
D. Wallace upgrades this immensely for me. I am a huge fan of, and you mentioned this earlier, it's just a simple horror movie that's just great and something that you want when you look for a 90-minute horror movie. This goes back to one of the classics of being able to rent from Blockbuster, that you get it. This is your first time watching it. You're going to be finished and you'll be like, God, that was such a good fucking movie to like watch on a Friday night with your friends. Like it's a great sleepover movie. It's
you
one
don't have
of
to
the
make time
ones.
for it.
Yeah, you don't have to make any time for it. You don't have to really think about it too much. You're just really in the moment, and like you're there in the front seat with Donna and Tad the entire time, and you never. And like there is such a release that comes from the ending. I'm going to give it 4. I think it's a really solid horror movie, and the simplicity of it, like speaks wonders to me. I think it's I think it's a pretty good adaptation too. So.
Yeah, I agree with everything both of you said, actually. Yeah. And I'm really looking forward now, after watching the movie again, to reading Lee Gambon's behind the scenes.
Yeah, me too.
Where he talks to like a bunch of cast and crew from the movie. I would also give it a 3.5 out of 5. I think it's just a solid, good horror movie that it's hard to find these days. The set design, I can't say enough about the set design either. Nothing ever really felt like you were in a set.
No, the practicality of it is great. It's just great.
There's a lot of effort put into a lot of things, and this could have easily been a disaster. Like I said, when you replace these, we talk about like the Star Wars franchise. We're replacing these directors like as the movie's beginning and stuff like that. Usually it's a catastrophe, but people put their own stamps on. Jan de Bont, there's a great moment where the sun's rising in this movie. Just little things like that. I really appreciate
the evening. The first evening that they spend on the farm is gorgeous.
The heat again is just incredible.
Speaking of Star Wars, this one little thing I forgot to mention about the book was I thought it was very strange that Tad's favorite character was Greedo.
Yeah, what a loser.
Well, he's not your normal kid, as we all know.
Yeah, and it holds up. That's another reason why.
Yeah, it does hold up.
High. I never watched it and thought, oh, this is dated. It doesn't feel dated to me. I mean, other than the freeze frame, I guess, at the end. But even then, it's where you're going to go from there anyway.
But we talked about in our adaptations feature, we talked about how bad the freeze frame is in the Langoliers.
Yeah,
where they jump in the air like in mid cheer, and it's like the Street Fighter ending. But the ending of this, it's just that's more of like of its time. Like if it was made today, the freeze frame ending probably wouldn't have happened.
Well, boys,
any other words on the old Cujo?
Just to one last quote to wrap that up. As Donna said, Cujo was his name, and his bite was death.
Oh Jesus! Well, you said it, Mac.
I'm
not going to repeat it.
These dog days are over.
Oh God. Okay. Anything else? Anybody?
Do one more one line. Do you got another one? Come on.
Anybody else want to take a bite?
I've got another one.
Let's keep the puns going.
Oh my God, Cujo's gone rabid, and that's just after Gary saw droppings in his house. Just knew Cujo gone rabid.
Well, no, because he knew about the
I know, I'm
dog and
just
everything
kidding,
else. There's a great review by Publishers Weekly, a biting novel of gut-twisting terror and suspense. Okay, listen. We are entering into like heat territory length, so let me wrap this up. Thanks again to all of our constant listeners for continuing to check out the Losers Club podcast week by week. Please be sure to spread word about the podcast if you haven't already. And if you haven't already, what's your problem? Come on. If you love something, tell people about it. Be sure to leave us a review on iTunes or wherever you're listening. Our next book, not necessarily our next episode, but our next book to read after Cujo will be Richard Bachman's The Running Man. So make sure to run to your nearest used bookstore, or let's be honest, buy a used copy on Amazon. Until then, beware the monster in your closet, the rabid dog outside your Pinto, and long days and pleasant nights. Barks. Woof, 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 woof.
I got some hot friends. God, I got some hot friends. I got some hot friends. God, I got some hot friends. But you know you want somebody to treat you good.
Consequence Podcast Network.